player, and now he's going to prove it in Terran versus Zerg. To start off this best of 7, it is Jagannatha in the top right. Playing for Team Clash, he is the red Zerg, Reynor.
In the bottom left-hand side from Team NV, we have our blue Terran player from Korea. It is Maru.
You know, what's so cool about this, too, isn't just this is the rematch of the epic IEM Katowice semifinals that went to Game 5, and it was super epic and all that good stuff. Is also that now we have a little shit talk to go off of. That Maru kind of offhandedly, really, I don't think he put much thought into it, but was like, yeah, it's the ping. It's the ping. And then Reynor was like, yeah, hold on, mate. Like, let's go offline. Let's see how it works out. I mean, there are the complications of the COVID year. We can't deny that. But as Roddy put it, then we have to also consider the map pool complication. Later down the best of 7, we're going to be seeing perhaps more difficult games for Reynor if he lets it get that far.
It just feels like every other map is like, oh, Maru's got this one, right? I was kind of intrigued by the choices he made. He went Oxide, then he went Blackburn, and then he chose Beckett Industries for map 6, which is maybe a little interesting because we know Reynor really complained about Beckett, really complained about Blackburn, so maybe that's kind of an interest as well. But no, Roddy made a really good point. On either side, there's kind of advantages and pros and cons. And to me, it just makes it an even more exciting series. What I did think a lot about Maru's TVZ lately is he isn't afraid to kind of sit back and play the slower game. And oftentimes that is what you need to do on this cross-server. You know, someone like Clem coming into this, if he had to play Reynor cross-server instead of just on Europe, I'd be a bit worried for Clem because it's so much about saving every unit, being everywhere, and just constantly being aggressive. You're constantly up against that ping. But I feel like Maru is much more able to adapt to that a little bit. So let's see what kind of style he brings. We'll have a look as this start pool first from Reynor and Snook fallings off to the left-hand side that Maru does not know about just yet. So he's off hunting the ones on the right, which means the ones on the left are going to get by and be very annoying on that command center.
You'd think so. They did turn around for a hot second, maybe guessing, hey, the Reaper, where are you? As soon as they see it, they go back around, and this could kill the Marine that's back at home. They actually have a second Marine on the way, though, and that means if you just micro the first one a little bit, it should be enough to get the second. It is going to be a bit of a deny on time for the command center being finished, but there is the micro we're talking about. Actually, even pulls the SCVs, loses one of the Marines, but there is the denial on the CC timing. You know what? Also a little bit of a scout from Reynor. All in all, not bad.
Yeah, he does get to see that this is double gas. We're not going to be opening with the 3 command centers super quickly here. I was going to say, Reynor, he missed microed a little bit. He didn't go on the SCV on the natural right away, which he could have done. He could have been there a little sooner, delayed that a little more. No, not perfect. Just something to point out here early on in game number 1. That starport on the way up zombie grab. I mean, we've got to talk about Maru opening this up aggressively rather than that just let's take all the economy possible situation.
And wants to control the game a little bit in the mid game. I mean, I don't think it's going to be, you know, every game super laid back, super willing to get to that late game stage. Maru's very capable of it and possibly the most capable of it, but then you also watch the Reynor vs. Dream series and you're like, oh, wait a minute. Okay, maybe Reynor actually knows how to handle that too. So Maru, does he actually have a weakness in mind that he wants to exploit?
Oh,
does he even get that Overlord?
Overlord. 1 HP, just getting to that pillar. That is just that little bit annoying to deal with. As that's quite a way to send your barracks just to pick up the Overlord kill. That's actually quite a lot of, you know, building time on reactors or tech labs or whatever you want to add on. That's actually delayed, so kind of a big deal to bring this Rax out.
A little bit. I guess that, you know, because the vision is so grand for the barracks, it actually didn't have to go like a very long way. But yeah, you delay the tech lab, yeah. We have Reynor missing out on the scouting on the front lines, the free scouting. These lings will be picked off with every single Hellion that leaves. This one's going to try and dip in and see what's going on. Is there an armory? Are there already gases? What is happening? It's not going to actually see too much as the depots are raised in the main, but I mean, you can kind of anticipate what a lot of Terran players are going to do with the double gas. And he actually did see a tech lab churning. You just can't tell what exactly it is, but you know, because of the second gas, it's probably the starboard.
Yeah, I think he realizes, right, this is going to be Banshees, and because of that, he instantly started up his lair. The moment he saw that tech lab, he was like, right, start my lair, don't need to make Banes initially, because I believe that Bane nest initially it's safe. It's in case there's an armory, a Hellbat attack. He recognized, I don't think you can do that, so I'm going to get my leg going, get that Overseer out to help against these Banshees, and of course give me, the chance to tech up a little bit as well. Good news, he can go straight into that Baneland speed, and that will help him a little bit here, while he won't have melee upgrades or anything starting for a while.
Yeah, exactly. He's not going into the double evolution chamber, so we could even have a very fast Spire come out. You're going to have a little bit of time before the first push, as it was a tech-based first for Maru. He is still, he's got potential here. 6 Hellions still deadly, even though we see 8 usually as the dive composition. So Reynor's got to take care of that, as well as make sure the Banshees don't get a couple of cheeky kills. And then we might go ahead and see that Spire come down at 200 gas.
Yeah, let's see exactly what we want to go into. Boom, there it is. It's the Spire, like you suggested, Zombie Grub. No, I mean, definitely a cool way to start off, right? Going into a bit of mutas, while Reynor has, in my eyes, been very lurker-focused in ZVT as of late. The mutas get mixed in a good amount, but to me, his, what's kind of commanding about his play is the lurkers usually, so we'll see how the mutas work this time. Those Banshees are putting in work.
I mean, finding any success with them is always nice, because otherwise Reynor seemed like he was going to have a perfect response. So a couple of Queens go down, both Banshees live, and they get a little bit of scouting as well. But Reynor, on this map, you face the Terran. Oh, whoa, actually, these Queens are way far out, and they get bopped even farther. Even though they had quite a bit of energy on them, that was just every single Terran unit attacking them. There wasn't much to do there.
Yeah, really nice catch from Maru, just punishing Reynor a little bit. He just wasn't realizing where his Queens were. And that's 2 more Queens. Now that's 4 Queens killed off, and that starts to become a pretty serious issue as time goes by. So yeah, don't want to lose too many more of those. That will slow down his creep a little bit. Something that Maru is really dedicated to denying is he does lose 1 Banshee, but he's always scanning for these creep chambers. He wants to keep this creep back. He knows how important it is to have control himself on Jagannatha, rather than Reynor just being able to run away with complete and total control.
And that's exactly what Reynor wants to do. I mean, we've seen him up against other Terran players, able to get a perfect scout off, going into the quicker Spire, and then just suffocating the Terran so that they can't do anything no matter what their build ends up going to, whether it's a fast 4th CC or that 8-rack. So, I mean, it's actually kind of starts with that creep threat. It kind of starts with those Queens. Stopping that, then maybe the mutas can't go across as much. Lings do find an opportunity. Everything's unupgraded, so it's a little funny to watch this, but the tank is going to go down. Yeah. The Marines are also going to go down, and Maru, well, also focusing on the attack of the front lines, might be able to let that one go if he was to find any damage. There's already so many Banelings prepared.
Hey, I'm glad you kept talking, because I was about to say, it's fine, he'll just lift up that tank, right? He's just going to save it, and then he doesn't. I'm like, okay. Now Mutalist just about gets out of there alive. Yeah, I guess just looking elsewhere, just assumed he would have been okay, and maybe just didn't quite realize the power that those Zerglings had, or just how many there were. Losing a tank is, it adds up. As 1-1 is done. Tell you what, the thing with the Spire is always going to be like this push right now. You don't have upgrades. Yes, you've got Baneland speed, so that will help. But in a game where you don't have a lot of creep in front of your bases either, especially on that left side 4th base, it's really important that you're buying time with these mutas, because if you weren't, this push of Maru could be deadly. Yeah,
this is the scariest push, but Reynor's already doing such an excellent job. Grabs 2 tanks, the second one with the mutas, gets more Lings into the natural, and Maru was only halfway across the map, only just out clearing up some creep spreads, so Reynor has plenty of time to threaten him with the Banelings and to make more behind this. The Lings still not being cleaned up. I guess a tank is sieged up, that's fine, but Maru has had to entirely retreat. SCV's going down to the 3rd base too. Reynor just has control over the game.
I mean, do you understand why he didn't lift the depots here as well? I mean, he had so much time to raise the main depots, and first I thought, oh, he wants them to come in because he can trap them. There's like, no, they're still killing SCVs. They killed another siege tank. Maru really did not respond to this run by full stop. There was just no response in the slightest. Finally, he pulled back home. Now the mutas are going to come in, get a couple of extra kills, and this does feel like it's starting to snowball a little bit into Reynor's favor. And other things as well. Maru starts at +2 armor, but where's that +2 attack upgrade? That's a massive thing to be missed now, and the attack upgrade is way more important than the armor. And to just be getting 1, and it's the armor, that's a mistake, and that's something else that could be crucial here for Maru deeper in this game.
Yeah, if you're going to forget 1 upgrade, and hopefully you don't, but if it is 1, you want the armor to be forgotten. The attack is much more important. We're also talking about Maru going up to 2 factory drilling claws. That's amazing. Everyone loves Widow Mines. Well, not Zerg players, but Terrans love Widow Mines. No 4th CC quite yet. It's recently started. 2 Banelings actually do manage to go from A to B somehow without any interruption. So 11 SCVs go down. Mutas chase down some of these pesky Banshees as well. And Maru, I mean, I feel like this is now the time you're just like, so I just sit back? Do I just like let you get to the late game?
Yeah.
But that goes back to the Dream series, and it's like, can you actually let Reynor get to that stage either? Because he's really good at it.
On Jack Natha, I really don't think you can let him get there. But what other option do you have? I'm still feeling like he's done a good job creep control rise. You know, the creep is starting edge towards the center of the map, but it's not out of control from being quite factually here dominated so far this game, right? At least the creep isn't all over the place yet. Give it another 2 minutes and it very well might be. I mean, what does that matter if you can't move out? Because every time you move out, there's 20, 30 Zerglings or 2 Balins running into your middle line. This is a nice catch. Gets a couple meters as they try and swing on in, but at the same time, Reynor's going to strike at the natural. Lings and Banes running forward. And at the third base, the Balins are going to clear that mineral line. And the Banes aren't done yet. CG still rolling through at the end.
Yeah, a couple less Marines went down. That was an attack every which way we looked, and Reynor's still not really done. The Mute is looking for some damage. Do get popped by a couple Widow Mines, but the point is Reynor did all of this damage, of course, on Maru's side of the map. So even if Maru was like, you know what, I'm really angry at you, let's go ahead and go across the map, it wouldn't work at all. 100% would not work. So he's just forced to take that damage, be like, all right, cool. And then just continue to play out the game, which means that Reynor does whatever he wants to do. Burrow's on the way, 2-2 is on the way. Infestation Pit finally on the way for that eventual Hive technology. And the only thing Maru can say is like, yeah, at least I interrupted the creep in the mid-game.
I don't think that 4th base survives to... It might become a planetary fortress, and it's going to die like 2 seconds later, right?
Right.
Because there's just no reason. Reynor's maxed out, and the aim of the game right now is a Zerg, as nice Widow Mine defense on the left. The aim of the game is don't let the Terran take economy, right? You have all your bases. Don't let the Terran get his. Try and deny that 4th base. In fairness, Maru is really setting up defensively, which might make that difficult, and that might be the one reason we see that 4th truly get up and underway. He put a lot of attention on this right-hand side, which is very well done. But, I mean, that means he is in complete defense mode, and Reynor just says, cool, my time to go Hive. He's going to go into further upgrades. He's even going to fight up here. There's a Widow Mine burrowed up, and didn't like that fight, ZG. I thought he was actually better off just backing it up and, taking his time.
Reynor has room to make a couple of mistakes, so not too worried for him yet. Still a bit worried for Maru. He is handling these mutas very, very well, and Reynor is investing into them too. So the fact that they haven't really been the main contributor of damage is, a good note for Maru. He's also done a great job, I think, actually, preparing for the defense on the right more so, because planetaries, they can't lift. If all the Banelings come over here on the left side, you can at least lift and save the command center. It's the planetary that we often see when undefended just get popped, and then the Terrans just feel like it's game over at that point.
Yep, you lose that 4th base, you've not been rich enough to have another one on the way, you've got to rebuild it completely and float it back over. It just takes forever, and in a game like this, it just doesn't feel like that will ever be good enough. But yeah, I mean, good defense from Maru, right? You definitely got to look at that and say, well, Reynor kind of played a bit of a, overly aggressive moment or two. Like I said, I thought he was backing it up and saying, I don't need to fight you. And he was like, actually, yeah, let's do it anyway. And there was a little bit of that, even in his interview yesterday, he said, I kind of thought, when I'm playing Dream, maybe I should just try and kill him, and it didn't work out, but then I could just go late game anyway, because he's so confident later on. Jumps on this army on the left-hand side, ZG, but will once more back it up while taking quite a few losses.
The Mutas this time find a vulnerable to air 4th base. The missile turret's not quite done, means that 10 SCVs will go down. Maru, forced to respond as quick as possible, will be saving the planetary again. But Reynor, again, I mean, it's just like, it's all about time buying, it's all about grabbing what he possibly can, and then prepping for the next wave of units if Maru actually decides to go ahead and attack. Now, Maru's attack, when maxed out and on 3-3, could still be really feisty. The problem is that he has never gotten... he can't catch up with upgrades as Terrans. He's just got to kind of calmly wait for that attack to be done. So that already, I feel like, lessens the bite of his army. And of course, the fact that it can't get out on the map yet.
Yeah, if he does find that opportunity where he gets like a really good defense, a good cleanup, and he gets that momentum to go across the map, that's going to be the most dangerous part of this game then from Reynor. But Reynor's setting up to deal with that. His creep now really is out everywhere. He is getting more and more bases up and running. And he's just going to run into this 4th base again. Let's see how this goes. The Thor goes down in the medevac, and the Banes keep rolling through. Going for that mineral line, ZG. And this planetary might have fired its last shot at the same time. Banes to the left-hand side come on through. This planetary survives. That's a fairly big deal for Maru. I mean, he didn't even lose that many SCVs.
Yeah, only 7 SCVs went down. Some bio also, I suppose. But Maru is holding on in a lot of other situations that Terrans would have faltered in. But he is, again, just holding on. The Mute is always going to be a serious threat, even as Reynor moves into Ultras and all the Tier 3 upgrades. Reynor is, he's got a lot of options here, and it looks like Maru is finally fed up, actually going to move out onto Creep. Lots of Marauders, so if the Banelings moved in here, wouldn't exactly be efficient. But so far, only the Creep removal, and Reynor is not even really eager to take that down.
I feel like one thing Reynor did really well with the Mutas is he's always been working against the Thors, the Widow Mines, and there was a point here where there were more Mutas on the map than Marines, and that just kind of goes to show when the Thors are being killed off as well, you just don't have an answer to the Mutas, and that's what's given them so much dominance in this game as well as right now. It is a case of Maru having to defend against what is the Zerg kind of goal. This was what Reynor wanted to end up on. You got a base, but you got to lose the army while killing it off, and Reynor, I don't think, gave us any doubt in this game, Zombie Grub. Through and through, from the start till the end, he was in control. A couple reckless fights, simply for the fact that he knows he can take a couple reckless fights, because in the end, some of those reckless fights really do deliver and kind of get through to do the damage he wants.
Yeah, really suppresses the Terran. It's kind of a foregone conclusion, it feels like, when the Terran just never gets out on the map, really. I mean, I guess he technically almost hit Reynor's fourth, almost, and then had to back away. I mean, it wasn't a terrible start for Maru. He did find those queens when that wasn't, supposed to happen technically, but there is no point where I was like, this is Maru's height. This is his peak. This is what we're all going to watch and see Maru be the best at. It was really just like, Maru, you survived when a lot of their Terrans would die, but we're waiting for you to die, so.
He made it difficult on himself, though, right? Because the Banshee Harass was good, the Clip Clearance was good, and then what did he do? He just didn't respond to run-bys. I can't believe the Zerglin run-by that he just didn't. He had so much warning of it, and he still didn't raise that depot, that tank, which he could have maybe lifted and saved. The two Banelings, which just ran in, and yeah, these guys, literally, one Marine. It's just, those are the things you can't do if you want to beat Reynor. You need to have a good defense. Reynor, so much of his game plan revolves around making it crazy, attacking everywhere. You need to be better at that kind of stuff. And, every now and then, you will let some of those slip by. That's how this matchup works. But you can't let the easy-to-stop ones happen early, because then you have so little room for error later.
And then you also can't, I mean, it's kind of a choice. Like, if you are going to let a couple of those run-bys through, hopefully they kill the economy or the army, and actually they kind of did both.
Yeah,
so it's
every time.
Yeah, maybe you lose 11 SCVs, but you have both tanks alive, and thus your push on the left side's actually kind of feisty. But first it was the Lings killing one tank, which is huge. Very slow process to actually build up that tank count. And then you just found the second tank. And without that splash, like, you don't really
your push is dead.
Yeah, there's no situation you can find yourself in other than blitzing and hoping and praying they don't have Banelings, which he scanned ahead and saw that he did. So, yeah, the fact that he got both army and economy just already sets Maru so far back. And that's the type of game that makes me a little worried, because, Maru's talked kind of at length at this point, I feel like. When he just kind of mentally checks out, and when it's like the last game, maybe he'll be like, you know what, I'll give it a go, and then he does like the epic turnaround versus Trap, of course. But yeah, there's been a couple series now where Maru's like, yeah, I just thought I was checked out, but I was able to bring it back. So let's see if that's one of these series.
Good news, that was Reynor's map pick. And his first map pick, right? That's the map which does get vetoed from the Terran and TVZ. So if there's ever a map to be like, oh yeah, I forgot to raise my depot, I guess Jagannatha might be it. Don't go doing that on Beckett Industries. You don't want to give one of your better maps away.
Yeah.
Obviously, we go into Oxide. That is Maru's map pick. I think important for him to come out strong here, because after a game like that, you don't want to then get kind of murdered on your own map pick, because that's really going to set the tone. Actually, find this interesting. That last game was on West. Now we're on Central, so that was even Maru's ping advantage as well, which is a little concerning too. I mean, we've got to talk about these things. They're still playing online, and, I don't know. I just feel like it didn't feel like that, did it?
No, I suppose not. I'm actually going to go ahead and say that I imagine between West and Central in a game like that, it's not like if only I'd been able to slightly more
I was going to
accurate.
say that as well. It's like you did have 10 seconds to raise the depot against
Yeah,
those
well,
lanes,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah, it's just something else to think about going into this next game.
That's true. All right, so it's this guy's map pick. Let's see if he can start the turnaround. It is the blue Terran, Maru.
And in the upper right-hand side, our red Zerg player from Clash. It is Reynor.
Of course, course, that was only one game. I don't want to be like, yep, Maru just mentally checks out whenever he loses one game. Like, no, it's not that dramatic. But it is one of those types of Terran versus Xur games where you just look at it and you're like, was there any moment that you felt helpful as the Terran? Or were you just kind of sitting there like, well, maybe if this guy messes up. You just kind of accept your fate in that game and then hopefully in a way that could actually benefit you, because the next game you're like, yeah, Jackanatha, okay. But Oxide, this is the one where I'm going to start with control and keep control through it, as that's got to be what Maru does, because he had the Banshee opener, he just kind of lost all the momentum with all the Ling run buys.
And those Ling run buys were really just put in the game at the right time from Reynor too. You know, they showed up just as Maru wants to focus on fighting, when he's going to be 1-1 against 0-0, when he's going to have a couple tanks sieging. And he just never was able to take any fight he wanted across the map because the run buys got out of hand and because they were always there at those right times. And that definitely adds to it as well. Credit to Reynor, because you can also run Lings at the Terran base and then they just get deflected, you lose some Lings, and then you actually do get pushed and you fall into trouble. So that was nicely done as well. Hatch gas pool this time, worth mentioning as well. Reynor obviously no pool first like he did in the last game.
That's true. That was a decent pool first for as far as pool first go. It got the scouting, it got the marine, got the lane, the command center, so nothing tricky to start off the game. You know, when it comes to those pool firsts, I am first and foremost going to believe that Reynor is protecting himself against the 2-racks, especially on a map that Maru wouldn't like. You know, like, oh, I'm just going to 2-racks this one and get this out of the way. So that was very understandable, but then if you can use it to actually get some damage done, more power to you.
Absolutely, as you see, a little grenade going down, a little push back on a drone. Gonna really go for this drone, which is just gonna get the spore down. Now he got blocked by its own drone buddy, but Reaper unsuccessful to begin with, and taking a few shots. Of course, should never really go down at all, and Maru gets out of there with plenty of HP left on it. Thinks about checking the third base on that right side, doesn't see it, just wants to make sure no drone has slipped out, wants full information as to what Reynor is up to.
Maru's once again gone for a double gas, so we're going to see, well, I'm going to guess Banshees again, Hellion Banshee again.
Yep.
Because with the start like that, with the Banshees already killing some queens and then making more queens chase after the Banshees, they aren't there for the defense on the 4th. And that was accurate even in that last game when Maru scanned, all he saw was a bunch of Banelings, which was terrifying because he had no tanks. Like, that was another problem. But if he had the tanks and the queens were distracted and they were in less numbers, that can actually really help the Terran push. So might be looking for something similar here on Oxide. Reynor's actually going to go for Overlord speed. He feels like Maru is going to be tricky.
A couple of cool things just happened. First, that Reaper went down and killed a creep team. Reynor loved it. Maru was like, I can't believe I just lost my Reaper to you. He looked disgusted in himself. But he also got a really good scout of that Reaper before it died on seeing the gas count and the fact he'd stopped mining gas. So he had a very good read, seeing Ling speed on the way too, that this probably was Overlord speed. And he chose then to, I feel like, not go into anything, well, to me, I thought he was not going to go into anything that would be like really punished by scouting. And he's turned out to go into like this Marauder build, which you can still kind of hide maybe as Stim. Let's see how good Reynor's re-scout is, because he is really, really going to want to make sure he knows what's up here. This Viking wants to deny this Overlord specifically before it sees any Marauders. Marauder's going to pop in a moment. Reynor's right there to see it. What a scout. And that means Reynor knows exactly what's up. A spine could be great right now. Yep, there it goes. Extra queens. Gather those all up in the same place. Reynor has the info he needs to defend this.
Yeah, this actually shouldn't do any damage. Already not a great game for Maru. Reynor chooses an excellent game to go for Overlord speed and thus ensure a secondary scout, because one Suicide Overlord would not have been enough. So Maru, I mean, you still got to do it. There's a chance that the queens are still out of position, that the overconfidence is there because you scouted it. There is a chance it still does damage. As far as helmet attacks go, I think this one has the most potential, but more so when it's unscouted. So let's see how it goes when it is scouted. Maru is going to be pushing across the map with the Hellions. The Medevac has the Marauders. And Reynor is actually just setting up what looks to be maybe just a run-by attempt. And then they can come back later if the queens are having trouble.
Yeah, Queen's already kind of backing it up. Here go the Lings into that natural expansion. Deep Bazaar raising a Hellion behind it. It kind of keeps a Hellion there, though, rather than reinforcing across the map. Maru sees the Spine Coil and says, no, I'm going to check out of this one. I don't want to be on this train into your natural expansion because I'm just not going to get there. He's actually going to go for Hellion Drop in the main, and I love that because all of the attention of Reynor right now is at the front. The great creep spread. That creep tumor is just amazing find out what's going on.
His lings were already on the way.
Yeah.
Like, he just, I mean, he said, you know, they love the Hellion follow-up, and that's definitely still true. It also just makes the most sense, of course, but Reynor's got everything on lockdown. He doesn't even really make that many lings either. So his queen production has been consistent. He's up to 11 queens. That was good enough to defend it and take up his larva, even though it took up some minerals. So he's just been droning pretty happily, accurately as well. And he's going to be going into roaches, so I guess just looking for a 1-1 roach attack on Oxide can be pretty powerful, especially if your opponent opened up with something that had to do damage, and it's like pretty much done none.
Yeah, Reynor gets like a free walk into this roach style, and that's going to make this time as powerful as it can be. There's a lot of things that Maru hasn't done here. He's not gone for any Banshees. His tank production's delayed because you're focusing on that armor. Your third CC's not been up, so you don't have the economy. You don't have as many units out. So all of these things do add up a little bit. And I kind of like the decision of Reynor. And again, on Oxide as well, why not throw something like roaches out, a map which if the Terran does get let to macro up in, start pushing around, you sometimes do fall into trouble. So I like the map for it. I like the setup for it. Let's see if Reynor can make it work. Is 63 drones, we're kind of at that point where we're like non-stop roach production from here until you attack.
Yeah, I was going to say 65? 66
yeah, like
is a good number?
66 is like perfect saturation, right? But I guess 63 does it. Maybe he's got all his gases, so yeah, he could do it 3 more. He actually added a couple. He actually added 3. Perfect.
I want to hype this up, but all that really happened was Reynor controlled that correctly. It transfused and, you know, focus fire the medevac. So it's one less medevac to threaten any harassment with, because walking across the map won't really work. And then, you know, one less medevac to help heal against this attack. Maru is just totally in the dark about this as well. He's seen nothing but queens and a handful of lings, so he's doing kind of the typical TVZ tempo, like, well, I guess I gotta push you and hope that your banelings don't collide with me. And it's like, well, it's not baneling, it's actually a whole lot of roaches. As soon as Maru realizes this, he'll try and get the heck out of dodge, but you know, usually your tanks are left behind because they have to unsiege, or tank singular in this game. This is, it's already, you know, a bad start for Maru, and I feel like it's gonna get worse.
It feels crazy that he just has no idea, right? And now you've got a tank that's difficult to get home. Medevacs are being target fired again. Another one just gets out of there, actually, but that could have been bad. You know, I feel like he still hasn't seen the roaches because Reynor just used them to take down the rocks. Defended this with queens. God. Roach Ravager's going to show up. Okay, now Maru realizes, whoa, and he's going to start running the SCVs away, but the Roach Ravager is there. The tank is on siege. I mean, this is just disastrous. Maru is not in position in the slightest, and Reynor is going to come in like a sledgehammer and pretty much just knock Maru out of this game.
Yeah, he's like trying to like get the roaches to chase his army. Like, please don't hit my natural my production. That would be just so nice. But Reynor actually splits his army as he can do so. He is going to have some trouble breaking into the production. A tank on the high ground, that's where all the bio is going to be coming from, but it looks like he's already done enough damage. Third base just not mining. 22 SCVs have already been killed. Reynor is going to, I believe, take this game number 2 almost as easily as game number 1. But Maru, he's going to say, yeah, I'm not going to tap out too easily. I'm going to clean this up and try and play out this game. And he actually might be able to. With 3 CC still alive, if he could clean this up, he can start controlling the map with medevac drops. That's maybe where Maru really feels powerful.
It's the weakness of Roach Ravager. You don't have very good drop defense. Reynor's is going to go for round 2, though. I feel like he knows you need to mine from this third base, and if I go again, you're probably not going to be able to get a good setup on it. He's working down on those rocks to open up a multi-pronged attack in, or just a wider attack in. Definitely a bit of possibility. As you do see, Bioforce just going to be holding back that little bit. You can see even the queens are here, ZG, absolutely ready to commit into this right now. I mean, Reynor's going to go. He's going to make this happen. And, well, I don't know what you really do here as Maru. Get lucky. Reynor's just go out, right? No 2-2 start or anything. Maru's trying to play a macro game. He took the wrong bet.
Gonna try to hold here. One tank in the back is not gonna get a ton of shots. Even one of the high ground is getting some shots, but once again, the third CC has to be lifted. More SCVs fall, and again, the bio is on the run, hoping to be chased, and then they can pick up and go back home. Very awkward. Oh, Reynor, actually. Maybe his PC crash or something like that. But
he's moving. He's like, I don't get it. I'm right here. but
yeah, it's actually true. Like, so a StarCraft crash, I guess.
Yeah,
more
probably
accurate.
just a StarCraft issue. So we probably have a moment or two here as I assume we're gonna recover this game up to watch. This is like a really typical Crash as well. It's like moments before Maru GG, so we might have the recover of the game into the Roaches kill the last tank and GG epic moments.
Yes, I love those moments. Happened in TSL recently. It was like a 30-minute break and get back in. Oh, it was game over anyways. Yeah, that might just be what happens. I mean, Maru, he's done a fairly good job of keeping a lot of bio alive, and if you can do that, bio and medevacs, get to that 2-2, then okay. Like, we talk a lot about tanks in the defense, and they are definitely important, but if you can also get a lot of bio, then eventually it does get better than the Roaches. So that's the only thing I'm giving him right now, is that his bio is still alive, but his economy is not as much. Even if he could, 47 workers and mules, the mules are dropping in like an already oversaturated natural.
Yep. No, it's one of those situations where it's just, I think Reynor made the right choice. He said there's no way you hold the third, and at the end of the day, you need the third to beat me, right?
Yeah.
And he kind of knew Maru was like, I have to make the risk that you're going to play macro. There's just a tough decision.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, if you get to 2-2 and all that good stuff, brilliant. Will he get to 2-2 and all that good stuff? No, probably not.
Probably not. Before anyone says, well, actually, me about the mules, I just meant that he's going to mine out of his natural really quickly.
Yes,
and not have a third.
Yeah.
I love the well, actually, people. Anyways, so we are going to recover game. And Maru, clearly, he's got some fighting spirit. He sees an avenue back into this game. But I think right now, it's like you got to start thinking while the settings are getting fixed and all that good stuff. Like, you lost the first game. That kind of sucked. It was the other guy's map, though. At least you're on your map, also one of the OG, like, oh, this is good for Terran maps. You lose this one, too, and then you're back on Reynor's map. It's kind of scary.
I did want to ask you, because it was actually really close to that Overlord not scouting the Marauder. Do you think he could have cancelled the Marauder, rebuilt it, and then just said, maybe you just see, like, Stim and a Viking, and you're like, you don't build that spine. Yes, you're a Marauder down, but maybe you just have more power because he's not preparing for it. Maybe Queens aren't quite in position, etc. Because that was the last Overlord to scout, and maybe Maru just took the risk and said, I think I can get it, because it was kind of a close scout that he got.
He didn't see the army with the first Overlord.
Nope.
Yeah.
He didn't see anything, and they got chased down.
Yeah, I think that actually might have been possible. But then I guess then it becomes a little more about those Hellbats and pure Hellbats, and that's what the meme has kind of become, is that they don't really work. It really needs to be about the wow, surprise, Marauders slowing down your queens. You can't micro back. So I don't know, making it later or half as many Marauders. I really don't know. It was unfortunate timing though, that's for sure. As Reynor, defends perfectly after that. I don't know, dude. What do you think? You brought it up.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about it, and I just thought with the timing he went with, I just feel like maybe because hindsight is everything, right?
Yeah.
And it just felt like the moment he saw the Marauder, it's just like, well, when is this ever going to do damage? And it didn't do damage, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like maybe you just give it a go, because you're like, what are the chances you do damage when he's seen it? And maybe with like the Hellion drop up into the main was a cool idea, but you could have done that anyway with one less Marauder.
Yes, that's true.
So I feel like it would have been just a cool mind game, and I feel like at this kind of level, that's the sort of thing that probably just benefits you more than saying, right, let's just do this. I do think he might have done it if it was more obvious the Overlord was going to see it. I think he genuinely believed that Overlord might have died before the Marauder came out, because it really was like pretty clutch.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. No, I also think that, maybe canceling it, hindsight 2020, and you have a little more flexibility, perhaps, with what the Hellbat can do.
Yeah.
Since he's not quite as prepared, both mentally and actually in the game. We're recovering, guys, and we're going to see how long this game lasts. I think we left with a 70 supply difference.
It was like 188 to like 105 or something.
Something like that.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Reynor actually messaged us just here, and he was saying, I think he thinks he's talking to Roddy, and he's like, just can't believe I crashed out here, Just wanted my victory, just wanted the 2-0, and I have to go and crash out of it. So, yeah, for Reynor. I mean, I feel like it's worse for Maru, who's going to rejoin this game, sit through all of this, and then just bang. Although maybe a chance to kind of take a few moments extra and think, right, how am I going to reset a little bit in this series? How am I going to get back into this, going into the game 3 after this one? Because that's definitely a question, right? What do you do at this stage as Maru to reset? Is it time to crank out like 3CC and just start playing more normal games, because the weirder openings ain't doing anything?
Maybe he's thinking about that right now, or maybe he's just thinking, okay, micro the bio, because that's what we left off on, is that the roaches are about to attack his bio. And here we go. The game is back up. There's that 70 supply difference. Reynor is further using his all-in as an all-in. No 2-2. Oh, he actually does start own drones, just as I speak, and 2-2 on the way. But Maru actually did pick up his bio units, not to go back home, but rather to initiate a counter. And that might be a good idea, but it's already looking like it's going to be cleaned up.
I mean, I feel like this is the reason he probably was like, yeah, you know what, let's recover, because let's just see what this drop can do.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, this is obviously not looking good for him at all. So I like the idea. I mean, that's the right bet. It's the best thing to do. Against Roach Ravager, the weakness will always be the drop defense, right? And, well, I mean, that's actually doing a lot more than we expected. He just needs a mountain of damage, and he's just nowhere near that, right?
Yeah. The Medivacs had a little bit more juice in them. The Marauders barely didn't die because they weren't focus fired. So that was probably a very effective trade, even though we weren't watching it. But it's still not... it didn't do more than that. It took down a decent number of roaches, 8 drones, and did, I guess, force Reynor off his back. But that was kind of already happening because Reynor was respecting the natural defense. Tanks and Liberators kind of missed the Corrosive Bile on one. So, I mean, now Reynor's like, I'll contain you on 2 bases. And the longer that goes on, the more he'll recognize, okay, you must be doom dropping me. So there's even a little bit of a scout there.
Yeah.
Doesn't take a genius to realize that's Maru's only option.
I mean, I like what Maru's doing though, right? He's not just saying, right, this is over, I'm done. He's like, well, I've got 2-2. He probably didn't start as 2-2. I can drop around a little bit. And maybe if he takes a bad fight into me, maybe if he gets a bit impatient, he just gets a bit too reckless, maybe that's my opening. This fight should go fairly well. I think he actually has a few too many units here. Maru's going to get a bit of a cleanup. There's just so much more to be done. Oh my goodness. Those transfusions just were like, no, Wardy, not in the slightest. But this drop actually does very well. Kills off a base. There's some Maru hope.
I guess he thought that there was going to be an attack in the... Well, yeah, I guess because he was worried that his third...
Yeah.
The army that was at the 4th would not be in the main, so he did split his army, guys, but he split it incorrectly. Maru gets a hit on the 4th base. The Hive is actually kind of under threat here, as the Roaches do respond as quickly as possible. Soon enough, too, these are going to get a little less effective for Maru, as 2-2 will also finish for Reynor.
This is actually getting kind of bad for Reynor. Like, if he loses this fight as well, he is going to get a siege tank, which is nice. Maru, please stim your army. If he'd stimmed that army and, like, ran into this a little more, and he gets a cleanup here, he keeps on dropping. I mean, the reality check is that Reynor still has money in the bank. Upgrades are now evening up. Vipers are on the way. Everything is starting to go Reynor's way eventually. He was just kind of still stuck on the not-so-good army, but he teched up at the right time to make sure this wouldn't be a forever issue.
Yeah, if he had waited another minute or just thought, like, yeah, I'm winning, like, I'm not going to do anything, then yes, he's absolutely in a terrible spot, especially as the Liberators continue to siege hop forward. If he didn't have access to Vipers, this would be a really big issue. With the Vipers, however, there's a couple of choices, Abduct and Blinding Cloud. Reynor also still playing not just entirely defensive. Sends some Roaches across the map. It's going to make Maru make a difficult decision. Takes out a Liberator with Corrosive Bio, but I don't see any Vipers quite yet. It is just Bio against Roach Ravager Queen. Couple of Corrosive Bios will buy some time as Reynor has to remax. But this is the damage that Reynor's finding. All of the Roaches over here killing 15 SDVs. Might even break through into the natural, meaning that Maru's all-in is even more all-in. It's a pretty good army. Bio against Roach Ravager is a heck of a drug, but is it enough to kill Reynor in totality, basically? Because he's got to do it.
I mean, he put Reynor down on, like, no hatcheries, basically. 2 hatches rebuilding top left. He's made a really good effort out of this. And honestly, if Reynor had not made some of these decisions a little bit, you know, when he did, and he did wait that little while longer, he might genuinely be in some problems right now. And I mean, honestly, Maru is maybe another base snipe away from having Reynor in trouble just being able to build units. This is amazing. Look at all those Roaches he's going to catch. He's found so many efficient fights over just the last couple of, like, minutes. I mean, you really got to give credit to Maru, because it's like we've seen in his other matchups. Even when he's behind, he just says, how could I win this game? What do I do to get back into it? And his execution of it is really marvelous. And he definitely had Reynor sweating a little bit here, right?
Yeah, if a couple of these army trades, the army graph was like, you know, it spiked a little bit more for Maru, then I could see him actually snowballing to a victory and Reynor kind of shaking his head and being like, oh, why did I screw up there, right?
Yeah.
But unfortunately, while the army graph looks like it's been matched, the income graph is totally red. So Reynor's always had that little bit of like, well, I could screw up once or twice, but as long as I don't lose all of my production, I'm fine. And that is the case. Reynor's still up 80 supply, even on upgrades. Now has Hive technology, so he's about to have an upgrade lead. The Vipers come in from behind, Parasitic Bomb and Blinding Cloud, and there is Reynor's victory. Took a little longer than he anticipated, but it is a 2-0 lead for the Italian Zerg.
Yeah, I mean, really credit to Reynor. I feel like initially he played everything correctly. He did everything right. But credit to Maru as well. He's obviously not just thinking, whatever. He's trying everything he possibly can. When we had that little, Reynor lagged out, we had to recover. I really did think we're going to go back into this. He's going to lose a couple more units, and that is it. He's just going to GG. It's going to be kind of awkward. But no, he really put on a fight. It almost felt like since we came back in from the break, Maru was just the straight-up better player for a little while. Just Reynor had such a lead. And of course, it's kind of weird because Maru is the one with all the plays to be made while Reynor has to be the responder. So it does look a bit like, oh yeah, Maru, but there's only so much Reynor can do. When we look back on the highlights, there was just always such an advantage for Reynor. It just worked out so well after you had that initial defense. I didn't realize you just lost that medevac full of units there.
Yeah, that actually would have maybe snowballed this into a much faster base snipe than what actually happened, and a lot more drones. Because that's exactly the type of attack I was talking about, where if that just went a little bit better, then it does snowball, because you keep on sending very inefficient trades, roaches in a conga line over to the bio, but there is not enough of an efficient trade to bring that game back for Maru. So, guys, we're going to go to a break. When we return, we're going to see if Maru can actually get a point on the board, or if Reynor will continue his domination. Already 2 games in, and Reynor is up 2-0 in this grand finals, best of 7. Maru, I mean, just never really having a game that starts off strong for him and then continues with the momentum. It's Reynor every which way we look.
It's just the early games are going wrong, right? Or not even like the super early game first time around, but the first time Reynor counterattacks, it just seems to all fall apart. This time, it was the first time Maru attacked, it kind of all fell apart.
Yep.
Even the little thing like losing that Reaper, and Maru was like, I can't believe it. Like, yeah, I got creeped in, but like, I can't believe you killed my Reaper. And yeah, I mean, kind of a rough series so far for our player in the bottom right-hand side. He's down 0-2. Can he bring it back? Let's find out. This is Maru.
In the top left, up 2-0, he is Team Clash's Reynor.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so much we can really talk about those first 2 games, right? It gets to a point where Reynor's kind of just meant to win the game from there, and I really do think the most interesting thing so far has been Maru's fight back in that last game, trying anything and everything to make it work and showing us he really did not want to drop Oxide.
Yeah, his map choice after all now on a light shade. I mean, not the, Jaggernaut is pretty much agreed upon for all the Terrans, the worst one. Every one of the Terrans vetoes that one, but still, back on your opponent's map, when you're, losing lives at a faster rate than you really wanted to, it's a little scary. I will mention one more thing about that last game. I do wonder, like, the Marauder Hellbat thing not working, like, it obviously sucks, but it also felt like because he also was, like, unaware of the roaches, the little push out that created the awkwardness of, like, half his army on one side, half on the other. I feel like with the rest of the game playing out like it did, like, obviously Maru's got that fighting spirit, he knows exactly how to bring back the game. Had that awkwardness not also occurred, if it was only the Hellbat Marauder being scouted not doing damage, I wonder if Maru could have made a game of that. But it was basically the Reaper, then the Marauder Hellbat, then his push that was expecting Ling Bane. It just all was bad for Maru.
Yeah, it's like he just doesn't really expect anything that Reynor is up to just yet as we do get ourselves settled down for game 3. I really do think we've just got to move away from double gas, right? I mean, it looks as though we will do that this time around, but none of the early game pressure is getting anything done, so 3CC it up, go into that economy early game, and let's see what you can do from there. I mean, at this point, it doesn't even feel like we might see like a proper long late game macro setup.
I don't think Reynor's going to let him. I mean, or Maru's not going to let himself, I guess, is kind of what more so it is. He is going to go for that second geyser again.
I'm surprised.
I
mean, maybe because it's light shade, maybe he just feels like this is a good map for it again, but at what point do you start bringing out next map, Blackburn maybe? Is he afraid of roaches again? Does he want to go Banshees? Is that the strat?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things that the Hellion Banshee does, and, first and foremost, we think about the anti-roach defense. We think about how if you get a couple of Banshees, then they have to kind of walk their queens over, and then they got to make sure they don't die in transit, and it does help the Terrans, 100%. But then we also have seen the Banshees used very effectively to drag queens out of position for a nice swift gut punch with a Marine tank push, and that can be very helpful. Like, I was a hater on Hellion Banshee for a while, and I wasn't alone. I mean, I feel like I remember Terran streamers, like Hero Marine being like, yeah, no, it's not a good build. And it's really come back, but, we didn't get to see what else could happen with Hellion Banshee last game, because instead he tried to be tricky and go for Marauder Hellbat, which made total sense until the Overlord speed came in, which it has done again. So you definitely can't depend on a hidden build. So I guess you might as well be honest, whether that's a 3CC or Hellion Banshee, up to Maru.
This was a little bit different, right? This was Overlord speed, then Ling speed, whereas last time was Ling speed, then Overlord speed. So Reynor just like, I just want to see what you up to. And whoa, Maru's identified that, so going straight in because of it. No Ling speed ready, and it means he can get roasted and toasted on some drones. 6 workers down, and Reynor full on defense mode right now, trying to scramble together whatever he can. Evo chamber blocked, and that means the Hellions will continue through. Come on, do a bit more, guys. You had an opportunity there, and it feels like now you're cornered in by Queen. Somehow only lost 1 or 2 more Lings, and not a single additional drone.
He also droned through that. Make like a couple of extra Lings, but That's another thing that we have to pay attention to when those Hellions run by. If they do a maximum amount of drone damage and the Zerg player panics and makes like 20 lings, then the Zerg player is in absolute trouble. Seems like Reynor did deal with that about as calmly as possible, considering that he was surprised. He was not prepared for it.
He's in trouble, Maru. He does not have any Hellions left, by the way. So he just has no map control bar this Banshee. If Reynor just like ran lings at him, like,
well, that's
he could be in some trouble.
Yeah, I guess if he had made like 20 lings, then he could just go across the map and do some damage. But I guess that's what the wall is for. At most, it would delay the third CC, which is still something. But now no lings actually able to do that. Banshee not going to find much success at all. Reynor now, I guess, promising himself not to take any other silly damage. Is going into a fairly fast lair, which I'm actually surprised to see on Lightshade. I mean, I've seen it do it before on Jagannatha, especially with such great scouting. I mean, he did get great scouting here, but the map is smaller. Feels more uncomfortable for a faster muted play, so I wonder if this is just for Overseers, but then where's the Evolution Chambers?
Where are the Evolution Chambers? Yeah, exactly. I guess I guess we tack on up again, right? As Banshees still find not much more than a little bit of Queen HP, so that ain't ideal, and yeah, I mean, a few lings over here. That looks as though we're going to make some use of these Overlords as dropper lords and maybe drop a few Balins into the mineral line. Obviously, one of the things you can do with an early Overlord speed, make use of it later into the game. Why the heck not? So that might be something to watch out for later. As for now, the Banshees return back home. They get repaired. And Maru will eventually find his way up to that third CC, but yeah, and before then, just going to be a Spire from Reynor. Now getting the Evo Chambers to go 1-1 as well. He's going to get a little gas start for a moment or two here, but I mean, he needs to stop Bane speed as well, so he's actually going to have really not enough gas, but
yeah,
the Evo Chambers, I guess, are there for further down the line.
Yeah, I actually wonder if he kind of changed his mind a little bit. Like, maybe it was going to be Overseer and fast and typical hooks, and he's just like, actually, I think I can fit the Spire. So now the Evolution Chamber is going a little unused, as the priority is on Baneling speed to protect you, and then Mutas to get that high technology, your actual Baneling. Actual lings, I guess. Not gonna be too well upgraded. Anyways, the creep spread has gone attacked, so totally defended. No, you push it out, you don't really defend creep spread. The Hellions died, so Reynor does have a lot of that map control, and I guess he's gonna try and push that as well if he can get the Spire out and then just barely be ready in time for that push that usually happens over here. This is just a drop. Oh, speaking of drops, actually, Reynor going for the main base. He's got Overlord speed. Why not use it?
Maru, just not seeing it, not really reacting at all until way too late. 11 workers going down, and, well, once again, just Reynor the one finding the damage here. I was going to say, the one thing about only 4 Hellions was that maybe a push comes a little bit sooner and so on, but now it already feels depowered because you've almost got to do damage with the push because you're just losing SCVs again. Reynor just feels like he's in a lot of control. He sees this little army. He's going to back it up for the moment, make sure he can defend. This push up the top onto that right side of the third base here is one of the better pushes you usually have. As a Terran, here come the Lings. No counter defense because, well, the Hellions aren't around. There's a few Marines that show up, but even then the Lings maybe could have stuck around. Instead, they want to go back home, clean up this attack, Zombie Grub.
This is really scary. I'm actually, like, Reynor feels like he's changed his mind a couple of times, or then changed his mind once and then was forced to react to this. So he's banking a lot of minerals and gas, like wanting to use them for mutas, but then not having the larva because he had to make a lot of lings. And despite having some decent creeps, but he actually has no, immediate preparation to stall that push. And then Maru's like, okay, you don't have anything ready to go. I'm just going to pounce then. Like that, and that works out wonderfully for Maru. Reynor now gets into his mutas, but pacing-wise, very different game. A couple Banelings finding Marines. That is always nice, and of course, Reynor, further future attacks, run-bys, always a threat, and even back into the main base with some lings.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you're right. He really did change his mind a little bit on what he was going to do and when, and nothing really lined up at all for the typical what do you have when the Terran first pushes, especially with that being expedited, only going for Hellions, racks come a bit sooner and so on. I mean, now some meters counterattack an undefended third, but there's only 4 meters, so it's not like it's going to take a lot of Marines to turn this around. They are stimming over there right now, but Reynor's still in the main, and he is finding a lot of damage. He's trying to buy himself time for 1-1, but Maru's also on the 9 o'clock base and setting up a siege, ready to push in.
This is pretty scary for Reynor still. He's done a lot of economic damage to his opponents, but as far as actually tackling the main army, that's difficult to do. Reynor doesn't really have an overwhelming number of units, a truly frightening number of mutas, and he doesn't have upgrades so that his quality of units is good. He doesn't have quality or quantity. and that is concerning. So if you don't have that, look to buy some time, kind of play the Migrant Zerg, just expand elsewhere and move over there, and that's what Reynor is doing. Actually, Maru has the siege in the middle of the map. He just scanned the bottom left, I think realizing kind of what Reynor's trying to do, run by, expand elsewhere, and now he's headed to the bottom left.
Yep, realizing that Reynor was a bit too happy to have just given up a base and almost wants Maru to just go back home, start defending. He's going to deny the bottom left, which is going to leave Reynor on the 3 bases in the top, kind of back where we started. Reynor's re-expanding to the one that just died moments ago as well, but of course, Maru might just be able to move up and kill that. Of course, Reynor likely to launch a counter-attack to make that not happen, or to at least try and come and sweep in and to clean that army up. Going to kill this Banshee off. That's one less thing to worry about. He wants to jump on this army while these tanks are on siege. Now would be the time. Tank siege up and ZG. Here we go. Bane's running in.
That's a lot of damage, actually. Maru's sticking around a long time on his opponent's side of the map with the same original move out. So, of course, eventually your opponent's going to get that defensive advantage, get a lot more units, and actually find a decent fight. Maru does respond about as quick as possible, realizes what he can get away with, and that was the Marines. Let's the tanks die, unfortunately. But Maru still with almost a 30 supply lead. 20, I guess, now, but still with a decent army pushing through. 2-2, 75% done. Reynor not able to afford that. Is trying to make a lot more Lings, a lot more Banelings, and get to Burrow, which will only be effective if his creep is cleared up, which it will be after this. So if he can clear this up, then we can talk about the burrowed Banelings. But right now, it is about the Mutas doing their job. They're finally up to a decent number. 11 Mutas is not even quite decent, I would say. Like, I guess it's enough to threaten a Medevac or an SCV line.
It's better than what he's had before, at least, right? Before, he was doing so much with just 4. It kind of makes you think 11's almost unstoppable, but obviously that's not quite how it works. There's 2-2 to 1-1. The upgrade difference here is huge. Once more, Reynor is just having to give up a base. He cannot keep that defended at all. Nice little counter, but just hitting army units. I mean, these are just small, efficient trades. What Reynor really needs is one big, efficient trade.
He's not getting it. Maru has got this game on lockdown. He continues pushing every which way. You might lose a couple of expensive factory units. Well, hold on here, actually. That was not a good pickup. I was going to say, at least he's leading with his Marines and his Medevacs. That was not as great. Mutas tackling more than they can chew. Those are 2-2 Marines and only 11 Mutas with no upgrades. That was never going to look very pretty. Reynor is starting to really lose control of this game. He needs to interrupt the tempo of Maru and then, I guess, creep spreading or get the burrowed Banelings now that the creep is gone. But I just don't think he's going to get a chance.
Maru's still scanning ahead for the most part as well. Maybe not everywhere, but seems pretty well prepared for anything that could maybe upset him. Right here is on top of another base. Well, so is Reynor back on the other side of the map. That counterattack coming through, but it's SCVs for drones. It's bases for bases, which Maru is just in a better position to trade well off. And Maru, I mean, really, I feel like more than anything here is just able to kind of say, well, what about this one push? You don't really respect this push. It was very similar to Scarlet Innovation yesterday, the same map, right, where Scarlet has a really good start, and I think this game Reynor had a good start, right? You know, Bane's connecting, SCV's going down, and it was just a bit of a mismatch of everything. He built a Spire and double Evos, didn't have gas to start upgrades, so his 1-1 is late. Then the Spire finishes, the Evos are done, so he starts 1-1 and 4 Mutas. All of the while, he's under attack. That big attack is coming. It was just a little bit of everything everywhere. Almost like you said, he changed his mind a couple times, and yeah, I mean, I really felt like after this, I mean, this is like disastrous, right? Yeah, 6 drones is nice, don't get me wrong, but that was all of Maru's map control. I guess Reynor never did anything to do anything about that.
It really, the creep was great, the Overlord was great, all of his run-bys were actually pretty good. They just killed, you know, a handful of SCVs at a time, and Maru was able to replace it. It really did feel like it was all about this lack of defense.
This right here, right? Like, he's got so much money, he starts 4 Mutas in 1-1 when that army is there. I understand you want to prep for later in the game, you want those Mutas, you want upgrades, but when the army is right there, I mean, obviously maybe you already said I'm giving up this base, I'm not going to get Ling Bane out in time, but you kind of needed the Ling Bane before then. It's almost like he didn't think that attack was ever going to exist. Yeah, it was kind of a weird one in that regard.
Yeah, I kind of like wish I could go back into the replay and look at his like hatchery count and like how well his injects were going, because he might have thought he could have made the Lings and the Mutas and then realized he had to choose. And then he didn't have a lot of Lings that were prepared to turn into Banelings because they were trying to do a run-by that didn't work out. It was all, just a little mistimed. Had he chosen, like, I said, I'm like, oh, I'm worried about the faster layer for the Spire. And when he went for the double evolution chambers, I was like, oh, actually, I think that is the better call. Like, definitely don't go for the Spire. Go for, like, just, like, all-out Ling Baneling and try and handle that first push, because that is often, if not always, the most we talk about on that map as commentators. It's like, that is the push that Terrans do the most damage with. But then he did want to go Mutas, obviously stocked up for it, didn't have any Larva. They wouldn't have helped at that exact moment anyways. Like, yeah, it felt like he actually had a solid stance. He had his feet under him and then just didn't know what to do with his arms. And I was like, okay.
He's trying to take like a nice little photo. And he's like, but where do I put my hands now?
Exactly. Do I need like 2 mugs? Like, I don't know. This feels natural. So that was a bit odd from Reynor, but of course this is fantastic news for Maru, because no matter how he gets a victory, he gets the victory, he keeps the victory, actually gets the point on the board, and now we can talk about, okay, this isn't going to be a 3-0. We don't have to worry about Maru's mentality. And we actually go into Blackburn, which is back to Maru's map choice.
Back to Maru's map choice, maybe a chance for him to tie this series up. Really give us that epic grand final everyone said we were going to get after those semis weren't so hot.
You know what? Even though that was a pretty Maru favorite game from the first push, that was actually still a really cool game, right? Like, there was action all over the place. Reynor never stops doing stuff. Maru never stopped doing stuff.
Reynor kind of made you believe that he could maybe draw it out, right? Like, he could maybe make the one counter attack happen. That was just going to be one too many. It was exciting. It wasn't just like Maru. Reynor had some good attacks. The first 4 Mutas especially actually did like ridiculous amounts of damage for 4 Mutalisks.
Yeah.
Couldn't quite believe it. In the bottom right, still in the lead of the series, up 2-1. Our red Zerg from Clash is Reynor.
In the bottom left, as the blue Terran, it is Envy's Maru. I love saying Maru.
Maru?
Such a Korea boo. So
you can intro him every time if you want zombie growth.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'd love to, man. Reynor's easy to say. Maru has a little bit of an accent. This is a map that isn't just Maru's map choice, but is also one of the Terran in general maps. So I'm a little surprised that Reynor actually goes for the pool first here. As I said the first time around, I was like, I can see him going for a pool first on maps that Maru would clearly dislike, because Maru was going to be like, yep, 2-rack, either I get ahead early or I just kind of let the game go, move on. But Blackburn is a great Terran map that will really highlight later on in the mid-game. So I didn't expect Maru to 2-racks, but I guess it's Maru. He can 2-racks whenever he wants.
I wonder if there's something even more aggressive planned down the line from Reynor.
Yeah.
Maybe he does drop that Roach Roaring. We know he doesn't like this map. I mean, I would find that very weird, because I think Reynor's not really the kind of player to do that. But then sometimes the great thing about Serral and Reynor is they can say, hey, look, we'll just all in you right now, pick up a quick game, and that's something you always have to be afraid about with us.
That's, I mean, your point about it being something other than just like anti-2-racks, like, yeah, I think that is absolutely possible.
In this case, maybe not. No gas, no third hatch. Now it's developed a bit, Yeah,
really quick third hatchery coming down here with a lack of gas. You know, there's a Reddit thread about Spinishua recently.
Yeah.
And I forgot that was called like the Ice Fisher build.
The what build?
Wasn't that what it was called? Ice Fisher build? The Masked Queen?
The Masked Queen?
Really?
I thought that was just called regular TVC zombie growth.
Back in 2010, it wasn't, my dude. That was newfangled stuff, especially before the Queen buff.
Yeah, I do remember he was someone who really, revolutionized. Didn't even revolutionize Queens when they were good. He just did them when they were weird, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know the name of the build though.
Yeah, it's kind of a silly name that I think he came up with himself. He actually still does a bit of StarCraft. Anywho, Queens obviously now was staple of the matchup. Now you just get a billion of them and you win all your ZVPs.
I remember that Queen buff, and all of a sudden Queens were just like, oh, 16 Marine timing I ever scouted?
Yeah.
Queens.
You know how
not even extra Queens, just my inject Queens.
Sometimes we listen to like even the pros, and they're like saying like, oh, this buff or this nerf is gonna ruin everything, and you're like, I think you give it some time. I just imagine all the people who are like, give the Queen buff some time, it'll be fine, guys.
Do you think that was the most influential change in StarCraft history? Because I think it changed so much for so long. As triple CC here, by the way, so finally seeing something a little different from Maru.
Yeah, I do think it is, by the way, but yeah, now it's not going to be a lot of action immediately, but it is finally something really different. Oh, creep nice. We're going to take it now. Third CC, still gonna add on that starport, so not directly into just the Mass Marine, the 2-1-1. It is going to be still some Hellion pressure. perhaps even some Banshee. No, he's going to go Viking, actually. No Tech Lab, no Tech Lab. And 2 Marines to block this out. Really prefer Reynor not to see the 3rd CC.
Yeah, he wants to hide this as much as possible, right? But...
Oh, he's going to hide the CC.
Oh, wow. And the starport, right? You don't necessarily know if there's a Tech Lab or no Tech Lab.
Yes, yeah, that much you don't know. I was going to say, I'm pretty sure Reynor can say that it's not...
There's a starport, right?
Yeah, it's not fast stim. There's no Tech Lab on the barracks, but oh, a fusion core. Ooh, it's battlecruisers.
You know, that's a pretty fun way to set up on this map as well. But the one thing I do worry about is a little bit of that kind of like, if you say go Roaches against this and you hit like Roach Ravager, I don't know if he's going to play Mech or Bio, right? But like any sort of like Roach push hits really well against this, I feel. I always worry a little bit about that as we do take extra gases on the natural.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Mech.
Yeah. In that case, if it's going to end up being Mech, I really do worry a bit about the Roach Ravager Corruptor specifically, right? That sort of timing, you get like a lot of drones, 3-base saturation, 4th base is there, and then you just like, boom, this big attack. Corruptors jump on the BCs. I really feel like on this map, that's something which is just great, right? Because you come through, the Terran takes that forward position, that forward base.
Huh, the Spine Crawler comes down.
Yeah.
So obviously you didn't see the 3rd CC. He saw no Tech Lab on the... I guess this could actually be Marines and the Hellion drop. So
and stuff as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think that's what he's worried about. That's unfortunate, though, because it's definitely not. It's a 3rd CC. It's very economical. And then also it's going to be something flying in the air that's really... It's not... Actually, a battlecruiser typically isn't what does damage, but it pulls the Queens out of position than the Hellions do. Either way, you're not going to be as mentally prepared. You're not going to have that note in your head. Okay, make sure your Queens are here and there. So far, a perfect game played by Maru, too. That's pretty sick.
Yeah, I do like the one good thing for Reynor really is going to be that this lair is going to finish now. So in theory, when this BC shows up, he can just go Spire like immediately, right? It's not like he was like, oh yeah, this is my double Evo game or something. Melee upgrades are coming through. And then it's like, oh no, I'm forced into Lingbane Muta. So you kind of have a bit of a choice as Hellions are going to make a big play on the right side. Lings come through. I mean, obviously the one issue for Reynor is he just doesn't know what the follow-up is going to be, and that there's going to be almost an endless amount of Hellions coming his way. So he's not built a Wartron at all. And it must be time for that BC to start flying in somewhere.
But he actually has 2 Spore Crawlers in the main.
Oh yeah, he teleports right on. That's kind of not great. Look how much damage that BC takes. Wow, that's actually pretty sick.
How did he actually... he doesn't have any Spore Crawlers in the natural. And that's fine, because like if it's a Banshee build, you don't have to worry about your natural in this map a lot of the time. But you still, like, to have 2 Spores in the main is almost always because you know it's going to be a battlecruiser. I'm not sure how he knew, but also... Even before the 2 Spore Crawlers are noticed, I was surprised by how Maru did that. It's almost always battlecruiser to distract, then Hellions.
Not Hellions, then the BC.
Yeah, but the way that it worked out was that there wasn't even a necessary... The Queens weren't even necessary to really help with the Hellions. The Lings were there. So that, I thought, was going to do a lot more as a surprise. But to be fair, it's not a surprise-based build. The game goes on. It just kind of... I feel like there was a lot more potential there.
Is Reynor going to be surprised when he realizes that this is mech mode? Because I feel like right now, Spire's on the way. That's actually good to make Corruptors, but he started Bane speed, and he still hasn't said, I'm going to go for a Roach Roaring, which maybe he wants to try and play Lingbane Muta, but... Well, some players have gone Lingbane Muta versus mech. That's more typically a, oh no, I didn't realize what was going on, and now I have to play this versus mech, rather than a, oh yeah, I love playing Lingbane Muta versus mech situation.
I mean, mech is, it's trying to make a comeback. I guess some of the Korean Terrans trying to push it, but... Oh, I didn't think it looked very good.
Yeah.
Let's see, Cyclone Hellion as initial starting units to help control the map, push back some creep, and then that typical mech dedication to morph in one battlecruiser. Has Reynor seen the second battlecruiser?
I'm not sure if he has just yet. He starts up Mutas just now. Yeah, I feel like because the second BC doesn't want to fly, like jump across the map in case there's a Spire, because then obviously it just dies to the air unit because you can't teleport away. So yeah, I imagine that's been hidden until pretty much now. I mean, it's just full-on Lingbane Muta. Evo Chambers are coming down as well. It's kind of too late to go back, so I like it for Maru. I really don't believe in Lingbane Muta. I used to be like a real hype man about Lingbane Muta. I'm like, guys, this was a style for a while. And nowadays I'm a bit more like, yeah, but Terran's figured out how to play versus Lingbane Muta with mech, and yeah, I don't really like this at all for Reynor. Let's see what ends up happening as the couple of Queens do go down. Obviously some initial Yamatos. Teleports are available on these BCs to get on out of here.
So there's 2 things that Reynor would have seen. One was so many more Hellions would have been an indicator of mech. Yeah. And then also the 2 battlecruisers is like almost a guarantee of mech, especially with the Yamato that was also shown. So I'm not sure exactly when he would have figured this out, but he definitely knows about it now as the Mutas went into the main base. So he, as you said, this might have just been like, well, I'm already on my path to lane ban lane Muta. Let's just try and make this work, which Reynor has done in the past. A couple of those qualifiers for past IEMs, I thought he was actually quite good at handling the mech style that was at one point the most popular way to play. So yeah, as you said, let's see how Reynor actually plays this one out. It's definitely not going to be the standard Blackburn game, where there's that nice pressure kind of in the mid game through the middle of the map and continued pressure. It's going to be a longer wait for Maru's push.
I was going to ask what you think about just Blackburn as a map for Link Bay Muta versus Mech as well, because to me it almost feels like this is the map as the Terran you'd want to play first Link Bay Muta on. Maybe that gold's a bit exposed, but otherwise, where are the Lings and Banes going to find any sort of reasonable engagements from?
Yeah, that's also something I'm concerned about. It's not really a map that's it's going to create a lot of concaves. Or
it's not a ton of bases.
Yeah,
well.
You can't really like outmine your opponent super easily.
I do like that he's already taken the top base. I think that's essential to making this style work, because you are just going to need to outmine it.
Also, the one that was scanned. You know, that's obviously a very dangerous one because it's the closest to your opponent, but then take that as soon as possible. Hell, even take the one that's protected by rocks if you could. All right, so Queen steal the Blue Flame Hellions, or at least try to. 10 drones already go down. Maru added on a 4th battle cruiser, which sometimes does trick the Zerg when they're trying to make the just right amount of anti-air. Which, you know, Reynor actually hasn't made any corruptors so far.
It's actually kind of interesting because we've seen 4 BCs, almost more than 3 BCs lately, as now we're going to see no drones on the gold because those Hellions have continued to put some work in. And BCs are going to come up, they're going to cancel that 12 o'clock. The problem is right now you're playing, like, there are 23 Mutas on the map, but where are they? Like, they are just not making much of a move. I know they've been here and there, they were in the main, they hit the gold a little bit, but they're not making plays onto those BCs, and those BCs are just putting in work. They help to defend, and it just feels like there's no in-sync attacks at the moment for Reynor, right? There's nothing to pull Maru apart anywhere, which maybe is partly to do with the map.
It might be. I feel like he's also just like totally on the back foot. He's just been like, really? The entire game. And nothing is going very well. Maru is maxed out, about to finish 2-2, has 4 healthy battle cruisers. I feel like the first push might actually just win the game. Maybe not because it is Reynor, but now the battle cruisers teleport away. Going to take an efficient trade because they survive.
I mean, this is just amazing. How many Mutas he ended up killing? He got 3 Yamadas off. He killed 3 or 4 more Mutas on top of that as well. I mean, there you go. He just killed 12 Mutalisks. So, yeah, that's pretty good. His push on the bottom side. Some Banes are going to wrap around, and they actually do okay against the Cyclones. But the Thors will just not care. The good news is now the Lings show up, and they can kind of get a bit of a surround. This is like one of the weirdest fights we might have ever seen in StarCraft 2 as the Thors kind of fight Lings. I mean, I don't know, ZG. I mean, that's just indescribable. One
Thor took all of the non-queen damage. Way to go, buddy. Way to go. But of course, that's not all of Reynor's army. He's also still maxed out. It looked like it was because he didn't do anything else besides send those Lings and Queens. So that gets cleaned up pretty easily from Maru, and then Maru is going to do that push. I was going to say, not really much stopping him, as the battle cruisers now again at full health can help take care of the Mutas if they really were a threat. So how does Reynor actually handle this push? Just mass Baneling trying to nesty this game. But even the split on the Thors from Maru.
You say mass Baneling, but that was all of his Banelings.
That was all of them.
He has 28 Lings and like a bunch of Mutas to try and make something happen right now. I ain't seeing it as these Mutas try and take down the Thors. It's an expensive fight. There's a ton of Lings building, but Lings do not kill battle cruisers, so I have no idea what the expectation is here for Reynor. Like, he's still maxed out, but it feels like he may as well be on 100 supply.
Yeah, I mean, he's got 100 drones, so it's you know, obviously not gonna be the biggest army, but even with that, I would expect a bigger army. So much of his minerals and gas go into more Mutas, hoping, I guess, to catch Maru not building enough anti-air, because I mean that can be a trick to mech, but it's not. Maru is only building Thors. He doesn't seem deterred by the mass Lings trying to flood.
Oh, yeah, I mean, here he goes. The Mutas fly on in, the Yamatos go off once again, and I mean, these BCs are just going to trade fantastically. One in the end teleports as the Mutas turn around. Ling Bane continues through on the ground. The thing is, again, none of these fights are ever going to be efficient. 23,000 resources lost to 9,000 zombie grub. I mean, that is a disgusting resources lost tab. And 100 drones on not really enough bases because they've not been left to mine comfortably. Definitely ain't going to make up for that at all. And Maru is just going to keep on going through.
Did you see the resources lost?
Yeah, I just said, like, it's a 15K difference. It's
Oh, you did
disgusting.
say 15K, sorry. Yeah, that is, dang, that is pretty big. That is, I mean, it's exactly how I expected it to go, to be fair. I've just been, like, watching the last minute and being like, well, this is how I thought it was going to go. The only thing that would have changed this up is that if Reynor had at some point in the earlier portions of the game had more momentum. If he was actually trying to, if he denied a third for a little while and then denied a fourth for a long time, then the style can really work. But there's pretty much nothing to stop Maru from getting up to all 4 bases with double upgrades and maxed out. And then Reynor was still on a composition that entirely depended on having more supply and more mobility against a guy that was perfectly comfortable. Now even 5 battle cruisers. I just watch the resource trades continue to go farther and farther in Maru's advantage.
It's kind of crazy. How important were those first 2 Marines of Maru denying that Overlord Scout? Because Reynor built a spine, right? He was playing defensive and those little things, and then maybe not quite knowing about the BC. And then even the first BC actually got shut down well. It was the fact he just had... I really don't think he knew it was mad.
Yeah, it took him a long time to realize it. And then by that time, Maru had already got his 3rd base up and running and was even already on the 4th in the blink of an eye. Reynor still going to try and play this one out. He does have still a bit of a bank, but Maru, even with a bigger bank, now has 3-3 done. So these battle cruisers now with +3 armor save with the Thors. So Lings with 2-2 aren't going to do very much. I don't really think Reynor has an endgame plan. I think he is just hoping that Maru doesn't make enough Thors or doesn't... I can't even talk about the Lings, honestly. I don't even think the Lings could do anything if there were any Hellbats, which there really haven't been. And Maru's not faced. He's not going to stop making Thors because they've done the trick so far. And that is a tied series. Not at all the Blackburn game I thought it was going to be.
You know, this was very much so a very simple game for Maru because he had the luxury of not having to worry about the composition he was kind of playing, right? Like, he had the luxury of saying, oh, you've not really realized what I'm up to, so you've not been able to do anything to really slow me down. So I can just say, hey, right, let's go into my mech. I'm going to get up to a good Thor count and just go from there. I mean, every single fight we saw was just Maru, Maru, Maru. What a fantastic way to break the momentum, right? From 2-0 down, we're like, well, Maru, he's not looking so hot necessarily, like some late, lifts on depots and so on. To turn that around with 2 very convincing games, because the last 2 games looked as though Reynor had 0 chance. Maybe in the starter light shade he was doing okay, but this game especially was just kind of all about Maru. I mean, I guess the first BC kind of got shut down, but that was like the only thing that went bad for him.
Yeah, the opener actually, despite it also being a surprise, didn't really do a whole lot of damage. It really felt like it was the mech that was the surprise. The fast expansion process as well that was the surprise. I guess it makes sense. It's kind of funny that Maru did something again that was tricky since we have seen Overlord speed a few times, but I could see why Reynor would not go for it on Blackburn, expecting the typical, oh, Terrans love this map, they're going to do that bio push, but no, skipped that Overlord speed and was punished for it ultimately. Lacked the scouting, lacked the knowledge, and now is lacking, I guess, a 3rd game win. Is it all tied up 2-2 for this best-of-7 grand finals, guys? We're going to go to a break. When we come back, it's game 5. His little deceptions, his different styles of play finally starting to work out for him.
Yeah, I feel like you're a little muted there, ZG. I don't know if that was just me or the
that might
world.
just be you. I hear myself.
You heard yourself? Or maybe it was just me. Maybe my headset's just magically back.
Great. It's a good thing I was the introductor.
It was an epic intro, guys. So that's all you need to know with ZG. Epic, wonderfully so as always, as we dive on into game number 5 of this best of 7. We're going to kick it off in the upper right-hand side with the blue Terran player from Team NV. It is Maru.
Do I speak or do I?
You're good now.
Oh, okay then. The bottom left has the red Zerg. He is Reynor.
It's okay. At first I was like, oh, I've kicked something out. I've done something wrong. And then your voice lit up in my ears. I was like, uh-huh.
I didn't do anything. I double checked, man. My wires are totally fine.
All right, well, Maru's wires have been fine the last couple of games as well. How about that? From 2-0 down to 2-2 in such convincing fashion. And the maps we get left with are real interesting. Some of the bigger ones, 2,000 atmospheres like we play now, Romanticide map 7, but slotted in between, that cheeky little Beckett Industries still to come.
Yeah, I gotta wonder how much of a ticking time bomb that is for Reynor. He's like, it's gonna, oh god, it's not gonna be great. It's not gonna be fun. At this point, I mean, is it guaranteed? 2 more games?
Yeah, guaranteed.
Yeah,
Beckett.
yeah, it's guaranteed.
So 2,000, Beckett guaranteed. And game 7, Romanticide. If we get there, which we will, this is an epic grand final. We had zero doubt it was going to go 7 games, right? Even when Reynor was destroyed in the first 2.
Just like I had zero doubt that I'd ever be muted.
Amazing. All right, well, we set up here on 2,000 with a pretty regular opening. No one doing anything weird. It's a large map, ZG. I mean, to me, this is finally the time where Reynor maybe gets to play the kind of game he loves once again, where it's you can counterattack a lot, you can outmine, you can trade badly because you can get all of that economy up and rolling.
You know, even though it is now 2 points on the board for Maru, I have to remember that Lightshade was the game where it was like Reynor was looking okay. It just kind of was his own tripping himself up a little bit that started to knock things loose. And then last game, it was just like totally the misconception that it was going to be a typical Blackburn game. If Reynor could continue having these solid starts, defense-wise, not letting the Hellions do a bunch of damage, which I guess he kind of did on Lightshade, but he could recover from that for certain. He still, you know, he had those first 2 games where he looked really dominant. So I think it's still a little bit up to Maru to continue showing us that he is one of the best, if not the best TPG in the world. This is some solid harassment. Lots of lost mining time.
That should have been a dead drone, though. He
okay,
misclicked.
buddy.
But he did. Maru, he saw in his face. He was like, I had that.
Yeah, gonna get in his seat. Do better.
I'm not. Sorry, didn't realize I'm casting with Twitch chat for the grand finals. Oh my goodness.
Nah, it was perhaps a missed opportunity. But his Reaper is still alive, which is better than some previous games. He wants the ling. He's gonna get the ling.
I feel like you really just cursed that Reaper a little bit.
Nah,
I was
he's
like,
fine.
It's gonna die. No, he gets out alive. Okay, we're back to the starport already.
I mean, sure. It's something that he's not really afraid of doing, and I still think that there's some potential in it. But it is, once again, no tech lab. Okay, it's going to be tech lab and a fusion core. I actually came down for the tech lab. And a fusion core again. So, I mean, I would be really surprised if he did the 3 battlecruiser mech once again. Just because I think that there's a much stronger chance that Reynor is going to scout something, or even if he has such a late scout again, to actually adapt quicker in his mind. And on a different map, too. And already we can see a little bit more scouting done, but there's the fake cloak.
Yeah.
So the fusion core remains unscouted, and that certainly is still an issue. But if it's going to be mech again, I feel like Reynor should be able to kind of readjust his brain a bit quicker. But that is actually a question here. Is Maru just figured out a weakness that Reynor hasn't had to deal with in so long?
Yeah, I mean, that might be kind of an interesting way to play this. There's that full wall off, so no further information to be gained here. 3rd CC coming down, it all looks normal. Nothing right now to tell Reynor that there's a BC on the way, apart from maybe what he doesn't see. If he doesn't see a Banshee moving out, but then it could be 2 stacked up Banshees, for example. So, yeah, it's tough one to call. I mean, he prepares with spores, etc., right? So it's not going to be like he has nothing to work with here. There's double gas and that natural again, Zeech.
Yeah, so it is going to be mech. Reynor's going to want to figure this out as fast as possible, but right now it's all thoughts again to Bio, and then just the preparation against the Banshees. He handled Hellion and Battlecruiser very well last game. It just was everything else that quickly spiraled out of control. Didn't realize what his opponent was doing. Couldn't stop Maru from getting to a 4 base as a mech Terran. That's what's got to change here.
Yeah, no, it was really the fact that it was just mech. That's kind of what did it for Maru, right? 2 more factories starting up, and we kind of know where this continues through to as we just have the Bane Nest about to finish, the Spire about to be done. I just kind of have my eyes on Reynor as to what he's going to do when he finds out that this is a battlecruiser, right? When he knows it's a BC, how quickly does he confirm it's mech? And how quickly does he move into everything else? As these queens a little bit separated because he wasn't expecting this, I suppose. Now the Hellions are going to go for those drones. 1 queen already dead. 1 queen's fighting the Hellions. The other queens are fighting a BC. There's a little bit of a mess as the Lings are going to get roasted as well. That's 9 drones, multiple queen kills, and I mean, the Hellions are still alive.
So this, I said, like, Reynor's got to change up not his defense because it was fine last game, but rather his follow-up. In this case, Maru changed his attack.
Yeah.
He realized that that was an undefended 3rd base or under-defended 3rd base, and if his battlecruiser came along, then it would do a lot more damage, and he was right about that, getting a lot of queens killed, decent number of drones and Lings, and not losing his battlecruiser, most importantly. In fact, only losing 2 Hellions and that original Reaper.
I really feel like keeping the Hellions alive is terrifying right now, especially because Reynor's not on his way to the Roach Run. Those Hellions have so much value once again, right? Just in this position where they can trade and keep on trading. Man, Evo Chambers are coming down, the Spire's on the way. I mean, is this a carbon copy of the last game? Obviously not quite in terms of how it's played out up until now, but from this point on, it really feels like we need to see something a bit different. The one thing that I really do think might just change simply is the fact that it's 2,000 atmospheres.
Yes.
You know, it does feel like this is a much better map for counterattacking and for out-expanding your opponent on.
I agree wholeheartedly. The 4th base should be a little bit more difficult for Maru to grab, even with the early starts, although if he continues doing damage, it might actually be easy enough. Hellions, once again, on top of the 3rd base, some Lings trying to support, Queens having to handle both Hellions and Battlecruisers, plural. They have quite the job to do, and they're very slow at doing it. The drone's still under attack, under threat. 4 Hellions looking for the lineup. Don't quite get it on! 12, 14 drones go down at the last possible second, still with the 1-shot number of Hellions. That's too bad. And now maybe with that extra damage added on, both Battlecruisers are still alive. Maybe, yeah, Maru does get to 4 bases again super easy.
Man, I was really like, oh my goodness, how has he not gotten the drones yet? The Lings then kind of, you know, kept the Hellions busy for a while. BC goes down. A small victory there for Reynor, and Maru losing out. So something that goes right and a full-on switch up here from Reynor. Roach Robin starts, Corruptor's on the way.
Yes.
I mean, he is down a lot of supply, but the best thing about playing first mech is if you fall a bit behind, mech doesn't typically come across the map and kill you right away, so you do get more of a chance to kind of play against it and to prepare to kind of get back in the game than you would if a bunch of stimmed Marines were about to show up.
Yes, there's not a 16 Marine drop into a second drop into a tank push. It can be some Hellion Cyclone harassment and pushback creep, but it's not going to be the lethal strike from a bio player. Okay, well, some drones just chilling there, so 6 of them go down. Hellions are like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, I think they were actually transferring, and then he realized the Hellions were there, clicked them away, and then they just sat AFK, so they were kind of chilling. I mean, they shouldn't have been chilling still, but at least there was some explanation behind the chill. I
mean, 31 drones go down. 16 Hellions as well, sure, but it's obviously the Hellions aren't super important as far as getting his 3rd base up. It's already up. His 4th base also going to get up. So obviously the drone losses are a lot worse. Totally right about the pacing of mech, but then as far as the pacing of what Reynor would like to do here, cut as he is by the knees, like, he can't do the big, really scary all-in attack, at least to the same, intensity that it might be if he had not lost all those drones. So, I mean, he wants to try and do a big attack before Maru's ready. Could it work? I suppose. I think it will. I don't know. No, I'm actually not really a big believer in it.
Yeah, I mean, Thor's on the way. A Cyclone count we've seen being good. I don't think you can make something aggressive work here. I don't mind on this map, just the way that the game's gone, you're just so heavily weakened. Yeah, I'm kind of with you there, ZG. I don't actually know what you do. I mean, I guess you start running around the map as Reynor, you start trying to make those picks, you start trying to trade effectively. That's pretty much all you can do from this point. There is no secret answer, just be like, haha, here I am back in this game. No, this is going to be a long, drawn-out battle for Reynor if he wants to win this. And, I mean, it starts right now with every single fight, jumping on these BCs right away. Maru does the right thing, teleports 1 and 2 back. And that's kind of the battle cruise attacks, right? 2 Corruptors, or 1 Corruptor in this case, going down. That's something that Reynor, he just has to keep replacing those Corruptors.
Right, yeah. You can't let the battle cruisers just go around, run around like they want. I mean, Reynor is going into the macro mode, up to 80+ drones, all of the upgrades. He had already dedicated to the 2 attack upgrades from early on. And he is expanding. Like, he is going to have a stable late game, especially if Maru is not, like, super eager to attack. He's getting maxed out, but his 2-2 is only halfway done. But it does mean that he has to deal with a late-game Terran who knows what he's doing and can have that killer instinct. He can push. Not necessarily because the timing dictates it, but because he knows he has an advantage.
Yep, absolutely. Love this. Just being around that left side. Hellions are poised on the right as well. Corruptors are going to say, let's take our opportunity and maybe do something across the map. But double turret BCs are there. Instant Yamatos for a couple of kills. And I like the idea, but yeah, just good setup from Maru. Good defense. And now he's locked onto a hatchery. We know how quickly those fall against those Cyclones with that upgrade.
Especially with all the queens elsewhere are just low in numbers. They've been killed so often. So 1 hatchery goes down, attack on the right as well. Not usually the mechanic of a mech player here, where they go on both sides, but it's actually kind of working out here. Hellbats are going to help take down the queens, so no more creep spread, no more injects, no more transfuses. Reynor, usually this would make it easier for the Zergs to clean things up. And there you go, like the right side gets cleaned up really, really quickly. But Maru is actually pushing into his natural at this point. This is going to be a really important break. I think he could do it, even maybe with like ease, but it's got to be a really good break. And takes out the Hellbats, yes, but the tanks and Cyclones still alive. Even the Thor still alive. Reynor, there we go. Now jumping on top of the rest of the tanks. That scene here is why you don't necessarily split up a mech army, but Maru did do a lot of damage with both attacks.
Yeah, both attacks did well. Love that these Corruptors in position. Do not want to let those BCs do more than they should, as Maru was kind of meant to insta-teleport, and he did not. So he loses another BC, and, you know, that's a couple BCs down this game. If they hadn't happened, maybe some money goes elsewhere. Maybe your BC count is higher. Just, you know, something to think about, that Reynor is getting some value here and there. As Maru going to keep up with this Hellion Cyclone style. These Corruptors really want to do something right now, because if they can get in position to caustic spray down a base, that's great. Especially because the BCs on teleport cooldown, they can't teleport away if they try and come into defense.
I guess this is a time to remind people that 2000 Atmospheres actually does have a rich Vespian geyser base, which Reynor is taking pretty quickly. I mean, if he was in a better position, one where he had more momentum, he might even try and aggressively take the other, but it's not really his prerogative. Maru is starting to do some kind of... I mean, the first double attack I really liked, but the more that he does kind of attack without every unit in position all together, the more Reynor has a chance to take efficient trades. But this was a bit of a distraction. However, this base is going to be saved this time. Oh, yeah. I don't think a Cyclone Lock is going to get it. Oh, no. Oh, my God.
Banelands kind of show up last moment, and only 5 drones go down. I mean, that was a clutch defense if you've ever seen one.
That was a lot of drones. That would have been so expensive, because Reynor does not have a bank yet. He's been forced to, you know, engage actually quite frequently against the mech players, so he's not really had a time to get to 90 drones and then just feed off of that for a solid 5-6 minutes. Maru, who's been uninterrupted mostly in his economy, is now adding a ton of command centers and orbitals, going up to all the gases, and continuing to make actually a very large Cyclone army.
Yeah, he wants to play this kind of, you know, more tradey kind of style of Terran mech, right? Where you go out, you fight, you take a bit of a trade here, a bit of a trade there, and you're the player actually with a lot of workers that you can actually rebuild off of these fights again and again, while hopefully denying some of that Zerg economy by locking onto these hatcheries. Don't think that's going to work out, and with the Viper here, these tanks won't have much either. He does actually get the hatchery just about, but it costs him a ton of units.
Yeah, it does. I mean, the hatchery kill is fantastic, because it's really not a lot of hatcheries that Reynor is mining off of here, but Reynor is taking some very efficient trades. Battlecruisers go, I guess, you know, uncontested, but yeah, as far as army to army, Reynor is maybe not the most upset with how things have gone. Even his upgrades finishing now as he cleans up the left side attack again. I mean, part of the reason some of these multi-pronged attacks are doing damage is that Reynor has also never had time to build a bunch of static defense. But if he can get some breathing time, he will be able to. Maru's just in a still pretty good position. He can definitely just continue churning out units at a very fast rate, but he also doesn't have a bank. And eventually, they will start to fight over some common bases. 2000 Atmosphere is one of our larger maps, though, so it's still going to be a bit split map for a time. That could be what Reynor does next. If he cleans this up, he could actually attack Maru's base, which might be a bit more concerning. The Cyclones could get trapped in the bottom right. They're getting as many lock-ons as possible before that happens. There you go, a couple of Bailings from the south side, really helping out. Corruptor is even going ahead and peeing on that building, might get the kill. These Cyclones being cleaned up, try and buy some time for the tanks to get sieged. But Reynor's going to get one base, and then maybe could do something on the right as well.
Yeah, Maru is not trading well these last few fights. They've been really quite expensive for him. Overall, resource loss is decent, and Maru has a game be mining more, right, with the worker count advantage. As the base top side stays alive, and now we're going to go through these couple of BCs and just try and be aggressive elsewhere, take the Corruptor's attention away. And once more, Maru is instantly like, oh, you're going down there? I'm going to go this way. He really does just want to stay so aggressive with these armies.
Yeah, Reynor, had he known that, could have maybe taken out the right side base with some plants area yet, but didn't know that, and now is forced to respond to the tanks that are already sieged on that high ground. So it's going to make it very, very difficult to do. Plenty of Ravagers, but only one Viper in the mix. I'm actually a little surprised by that. Reynor does have some gas bank.
Yeah, I kind of wonder if it's just because he felt like he didn't need many Vipers because there wasn't a lot of tanks in previous pushes. And now it's like, oh wow, suddenly all of these tanks are here, and my army's actually not really that great for fighting into that, so maybe kind of part of the way that Maru is playing this. Recancels the bottom side. Great job by these BCs. Canceling that again and again is always great. Does have to teleport out, though. Corruptor's at least forcing that, as Reynor is going to make a move for the right side base, as Maru's going to keep pushing for the left. We're going to start base trading this out a little bit. Those BCs going to be in a bit of trouble here. So all those SCVs, they're going to blow up right away. Let's see what the rest of the units from Maru can do. This base will fall, but so will another base of Reynor on the other side.
Probably, and Maru is going to have to slowly push to the left side while also being pushed in here, but I think the tank line is good enough in depth. Reynor's going to back away from that, but yeah, this left side attack, it's kind of slow because these aren't a bunch of Cyclones, they're tanks, so there's a possibility that Reynor takes one base and still keeps his. The honest truth is that he just needs all the bases we're currently talking about. So he needs to keep this alive, he needs more minerals, as the trades have him going that well, and he's definitely still losing the game.
Yeah, no, he really is. I did think Maru would be a bit more aggressive on this left side, and in the end, he is going to get this base. So at the end of the day, it is for base. In the top right, these Corruptors are going on a bit of a hunt, moving through the bases, seeing if they can find anything else, but there are really turrets everywhere. BCs are dead, by the way, so they are done, but it doesn't really matter. Everything else looks good for Maru. What a fun way to play Mech Zombie Grove, right? Just a lot of like activity, and not just activity with like Cyclone Hellion, but like activity with some tanks supporting, splitting up when we sometimes don't expect that split up to happen. And Maru takes a lead going into Beckett Industries.
Yeah, that's kind of scary. But that was the type of Maru that I think everyone wanted to see. It was with mech, sure, but it was attack, and then expand super aggressively, super fast, so that he can continue throwing away, more expensive units than Marines. Reynor just really couldn't keep up. I also think he was probably troublesome as a Zerg player to determine exactly what ratio of units he was up against. Because if a mech player does go like all in on tanks or all in on Cyclones every single round, it can get maybe a little predictable. Maru always changed it up. He always had either a couple of tanks or a couple of Cyclones or the battle cruisers, and Reynor was always the one following him around, not expanding enough, not getting a good enough economy, and very rarely getting on Maru's side of the map.
And those 10 drones that went down all at once was such a shame, because Reynor was almost salvaging what was kind of a bad early game, was almost saving it, but wasn't quite able to make it happen in the end. So here we are, Beckett Industries for map number 6. Maru, tournament point for him. Chance to win it all in this season finals. So kind of fun.
I mean, kind of fun. It's actually super sick, and I bet a lot of people out there who are like, yeah, these foreigners, man, they don't know what they're up against. They're feeling really redeemed right now. As is Maru, who of course said that like, it's just a ping. Yeah, well, I guess, it's kind of one of the old ways of talking about this matchup. So Maru has asked for a break here. But, there's a time where we used to talk about like, if it's a ping problem or if there's an injury problem even, like go into mech. But then mech had just disappeared from most professional TVZs for basically a year and a half. It was that Katowice 2020. We were like, mech? no?
Yeah.
Okay, never again. But now
it disappeared, right?
we can
Like,
go back to
literally.
talking about it. Like, Maru is not just like changing it up compositionally to throw Reynor off, but I feel like he is taking away some of the issues of Ping by not having to split at a moment's notice.
The strategy of just going mech as well is really catching Reynor so off guard, right?
Yeah.
Just the way he's selling it, doing it in a couple different ways as well, like the initial builds and setups, and just changing that first attack of like BC main versus
Yeah.
BC third. Just these things are allowing him to get into good positions. And this was the second game in a row where he really did a great job denying scouting information, right? He faked a Banshee, and then he had that fusion core off to the side, so Reynor doesn't have the full confirmation. And then he's already going into the Spire, and he was kind of thinking about playing Ling Bane. Then he's like, well, no, I will put Roach Roaring down. I will play Corruptors this time around, so switched up a bit. I mean, does just feel like... I'd love to see like a mech game from Maru where Reynor feels as though he knows it's mech from the get-go. Because I'd love to see what he does about it then, whereas right now it feels just so slow but reactionary.
I mean, I can almost guarantee that if Reynor knew it was mech from the get-go, it just fails. Because that's, you know, when Zergs could just be like, oh, it's mech, you know, from Terrans. Terrans are really starting to lose quite a lot. So that's definitely an important element, is that Maru is able to deny scouting. And maybe Reynor is going to feel the obligation to go back into Overlord speed, which will put a hit on his economy. And then maybe that's when Maru, on Beckett Industries, brings out the solid 1-2 mechanical bio punch. It's always tough to say mechanical in two different ways to say it. But yeah, just the very nicely done macro build order bio push on this map, which is so difficult to hold.
Yeah, the only kind of hope I have is that we have seen Reynor turn a couple of Beckett Industry games around. Won it yesterday. We've seen him win it sometimes against Clem as well, so...
Yeah. Yesterday was kind of an anomaly. I mean, that started off really poorly for Dream, but also Dream was trying that 3 Rex strategy.
Yeah, it was a very different kind of game, but I'm just clinging on to some kind of hope here, ZG. There's not a lot of good things you can say about Beckett for Zerg players, you know?
There really isn't. You know, you could say, like, well, they have their early game all-ins, right? They're going to hit earlier, and it's like, well, I think Zerg players would be like, what all-ins? Like, when does it actually work?
Meet my cloaked Banshees.
Yeah, exactly. That too. Yes, it is problematic. But Reynor, like, this is his last life. He's got to hold it here on Beckett. It's probably the worst-case scenario for Reynor, and best-case scenario for Maru, is he's really brought it back from that kind of devastating 0-2 deficit to now be up 3-2. In the bottom left of Beckett Industries, he is the Red Zerg, Reynor.
In the upper right-hand side from Team NV, one map away from winning the season finals, it is Maru.
You know...
Are you about to say you were thinking of saying it? Because...
No. What I was going to say is that initially I saw those SUVs go out, and I was like, really? Like, on this map, it's so good for the mid-game push, but...
The mind game is
yeah,
beautiful.
exactly. I feel like Reynor is, again, going to be like Blackburn, like, oh, I mean, he's probably just going to do a typical push.
Well, first, though...
Oh, good stuff for Reynor. Thinking, I mean, he's absolutely correct this time around. It is a 2 racks. This is really going to help defend. Maru won't be able to just get a quick and easy 4-2. He can still do damage here, because that is the Maru special. 2 racks fails for everyone else is okay for him.
Yeah.
But it is going to even be scouted by the looks of things.
Yeah, at least the latest scout, though, right? This is pretty much one of the latest scouts you get before the Marine and the SCV are just running towards you anyway, so... Yes, still going to be a little bit of a heads up for Reynor. We'll see what Maru can do with it. Okay, he is still going to click that Overlord right over to that corner, but, you know, like we said, he's going to see the SCV soon.
Yes.
I was going to say now, about now, any moment now, and there he goes. So now he knows the first Marine's about halfway done, so a little bit of a heads up. Of course, it is nice because he's cool first thing, so you can say, how many Lings do I build here? Well, plenty.
Well, of course, you always want to, you know, thread the needle here as a Zerg player, not to over-defend or under-defend. But yeah, you could pull the drones immediately. Stop the bunker as much as you can, and then, well, instead of only drones, hey, there's also some Lings. Reynor looking to shut this down hard by pulling even more drones with the Lings. And Maru, I mean, he's just going to have to try and keep Reynor producing defenses to call this any type of victory. But as far as actually getting all the damage done, that just shouldn't be what happens. A drone drill comes in, tries to go for the surround, does barely get it. No, not quite. 2 of them slip out, but then eventually do fall. And that is that for the rush. Reynor losing obviously a lot of mining time, but now just doesn't have to worry about the 2 racks or any form of aggression for quite some time.
I mean, complete and utter shutdown. 2 Marines are going to try and slide away, but plenty of Lings to go chasing. So now these Marines have to just step and kill what they can, which is not going to be a lot. 2, 3 Zerglings. Well, I mean, again, Maru otherwise is... I mean, he's just in a horrible position, right? He is now the one floundering in the early game. You know, I really loved it to the point I was kind of thinking, I was like, you know, Maru's playing like a pretty good strategic series here. Like the mech builds a couple times. I was like, I really think like a 2 racks on Beckett might be kind of cool. Yeah, but, well, my Reynor just had like the perfect read on what might happen. Just that cool first, really paying off.
I think that really was like the question to ask yourself is like, well, does, you know, he really believe in like the mid-game power of Terran on this map, which every Terran should, but like, or is he going to try and do like the Maru cheeky thing and just get me out of the game immediately? And in that case, it was the latter. So Reynor perfectly predicts it and holds it. And now it's Maru having to decide, how do I get some damage done follow-up wise or take a risk, you know, maybe a 3rd CC. He is only on 1 gas still, despite seeing a starport here. But yeah, there's the 2nd gas. So we could see a very, very, very typical Hellion drop follow-up. I'm sure that's something Raider's predicting.
That's a really nice kill.
That's actually a really nice catch, not just because it was fly block, but, you know, 100 minerals, but also maybe the Overlord isn't over there when the medevac comes through.
Oh, smart thinking.
Maybe.
You know, one thing that will definitely come out of this, of course, yes, Maru has it delayed, it's natural, but at least Reynor also has a delayed 3rd, and Marines and a Hellion on the map right now. This was a no ling speed defense, right? So you actually have a pretty good amount of control on the map, and he's actually going to swing around, try and take accounts on the 3rd base. Is that going to be possible? There's still only 6 Lings on the map, 3 Queens. I mean, these Marines don't kill this super quickly, but the Queen's super out of position. I think you're canceling the 3rd base here.
I think so. I think it's just low enough.
Yeah, the Lings are going to force you to commit. He's going to go back for it, though.
Okay,
now
he's going to commit. Okay, yeah.
No, Reynor says he's not allowed to take it. Wow. Nicely done by Reynor, because he said, I believe you're going to back away, so I'm not going to cancel, because I feel like a lot of people there probably would have just said, right, cancel. It was close.
It was very close. Now, Maru sees that a Banelings is on the way. His Armory is clearly faster. He might still try and do the Hellbat push and hope that the Banelings won't be ready in time. I think he'd be right about that. I mean, it's actually going to be a Hellbat push with the Marines in the meta. In fact, another Overlord gets caught here. Maru could do some serious damage. But Reynor is building up the Queen count. He's got more Lings on the way. In fact, his Queens are already well positioned. They don't have as much room to kite back, I guess, but it's not like Hellbats go after this hatchery no matter how low health it is. Perfect timing on the speed as these Lings hit the natural, no wall whatsoever, so lots of economic damage on Maru's side, but he's also now attacking with these Hellbats, finding the Queens, a little caught off guard. They are microing back though, especially with the help of the acceleration zone, looking a lot better than usual. Here come the Lings to try and help out as well. They could actually be building Banelings right, but he's not doing that. He's just thinking that maybe the Queens can cut it.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe the Queens can get it done as we do continue to fight on through. Obviously, no medevac anymore, no healing, so eventually these units will start to go down. The counterattack from Reynor was perfect, though. 10 SCVs really just offset so much of the damage taken here. If those 10 SCVs aren't dead, I feel a lot better for Maru. With those 10 SCVs dead, Maru is looking pretty dead.
It's so funny, too. He's looking at the units lost and the resources lost. It's that it's almost even.
Yeah.
Except for the medevac that went down, adding to the gas counts. But yeah, like that would have been a lot of damage for Maru to do, but since he also took damage, it's kind of a funny game. One that I feel more confident in for Reynor, but Maru still has, I guess, a couple of possibilities. His Banshees could start adding in some serious damage. He could try and turtle this one out, as Dream did last time, you know, yesterday when it was in a very awkward position. But definitely not a game that a Terran just taps out immediately. It is a game that the Terrans feel very awkward about.
Yeah, it definitely is. Well, this is going to be Maru just trying to build a 3rd CC. I got to give credit to Maru. He doesn't want to give up in any of these games, does he? He's really like, yeah, you know, let's stick around a little bit. Do anything possible. A Banshee shows up. Nope, that's not going to work. Starting up Stim. I mean, credit for him for trying, but this game really was decided kind of early. Reynor, I really feel like a couple moves from Maru were cool, but Reynor really was just on top of it all, and just being ready to counterattack in with the Lings is just... I mean, it's a win-win, right? Either you counterattack in and he's attacking you, or you counterattack in, he's not attacking you well, you know he's not attacking you, in which case you're kind of fine anyway. Yeah,
exactly. And those Lings aren't necessarily what's going to help the most. The Queens surviving as long as they did. It's generally what helps the most against the Hellbat attacks. The Banshees doubled up, could grab maybe even upwards of 6 drone kills if they're really good. But even that might not be enough as Reynor just has pretty much like, not all the time in the world quite, but almost to it, to just macro up, get whatever he wants before Maru actually has anything real to say about it. His stim might be done, but 1-1 combat shields won't be. And this is actually going to be, it's going to have to be a game like yesterday where Maru was like, well, if I turtle, I can get to max.
Yeah. Step back, don't really do anything, and just hope, right? It seems like a silly thing to kind of put your game, the game on, but there really isn't much else you can do. Reynor goes into the Spire, just going to take control of the game with Link Bay Muta, make sure it's going to be difficult for Maru to expand. And I don't mind that. I think really is just a good way of taking a control on the map, which you should have a lead on anyway, right? And very possible that one of the first fights here can just become overwhelming even for Reynor and just kind of win everything for now.
I mean, I think Reynor is maybe having some flashbacks to yesterday and being like, yeah, you know what, I will try and kill this guy. Might take a little while, but it worked out eventually. So let's just make sure that I actually kill him whenever I do push out. Maru's hoping for a bit of a flub, bit of some mutas running over missile turrets. Wouldn't mind you have whatever. Maybe moving into a planetary that doesn't quite die to the banelings. But as Reynor is getting closer to maxing out, Maru is struggling to get up to even a past 100. It's not a good sign.
Yeah, it's been real slow as now the Banshees show up, but of course, the later these Banshees are doing this damage, the worse it is, right? Like, oh yeah, it's nice to kill 4 drones, but killing 4 drones when he's on 70 workers versus killing 4 drones when he was on 50, there's a big difference there. And so even these Banshees are like, yes, finally some damage, and it's like, well, yeah, like 3-4 minutes too late.
Yes.
Now there's mutants, so it's
now
even sadder for them.
Yep, one Banshee not really going to do a whole lot. Maru now gets to set up his defense against mutas, and eventual Ling Baneling just swarms, waves, tidal waves, I suppose. Nothing Maru can do about the creep spread, which is already past the halfway point. It's not like it's a very big map, so we could just have the entire map covered with creep. Reynor could go for just wave after wave. He could add on the infestation, but go up to the hive. Honestly, he might be able to do both, as he is now up to 86 drones without a whole lot of scuffles in the last 5 minutes. We are waiting for Reynor's decision. Does he just try and kill Maru right here, right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to throw units at him for sure, right? Like, is there a reason not to? At least give it a go? I don't think so. Maybe he just wants Maru to move out. But I do feel like if you let Maru step back, you do put the kind of, one bad fight. Maybe Maru gets a bit of momentum, base goes down. I feel like it's safe just to kind of throw units at him a bit. Maybe not worth it when he's just on 3 bases. Maybe you want him to try and take 4 and then do that. Maybe that's what we're seeing.
I think that would be a good plan. I will say that if Reynor does misjudge partially an attack, that is where a small map is maybe good for Maru, because the counterattack will be a lot swifter, or at least the creep cleanup, I guess. Banshee perfectly out of that spore positioning. Reynor even starting to take some of the forward bases, as it is a small map. You do want to get as many as possible before Maru has a chance to even snap those up. And there is the hive. You think Reynor's going to go into a Greater Spire again? Brood Lords try and kill him?
I mean, it's a possibility. Why not? If you kind of got the money, get Greater Spire going. Yeah.
Get everything.
May as well just get a bit of everything right, then you can just adapt to the situation. If Broods look good, kill Broods. If they don't, maybe just get a couple ultras, help with the head button effect. Yeah. Like, there's really like very few wrong moves here in terms of like teching up and what you build into. I mean, the only wrong moves you're going to see is if Reynor really commits to a fight that just goes horribly, horribly wrong. So, well, he's just going to go through for this right now. He sees how much is in the natural, and the swarm is going to come, quite literally swarming on through on this base, and that's just going to be, well, 14, 17 SCVs. A few of them got picked up by a medevac to minimize the effects of that attack. Reynor's supply doesn't move, remaxed instantly, and Maru is, well, going to wait for 2-2 and play off of a 35 worker deficit, an army deficit. That was just a good time to attack, right? No 2-2 upgrades. 2-2 was there for Reynor. Units were a bit out of position. He could get into that initial choke easily. Yeah, he's actually been pretty, almost more cautious than usual with choosing his attacks, more meticulous about when he wants to fight. But that ain't a bad thing. I mean, it's actually an improvement, I'd say, over his usual kind of like, oh yeah, I'm just going to throw units at him.
Yeah. More perfect initial fights. Hopefully the easier the latter fights get too. So this one should be pretty easy. 60 supply difference as Reynor once again maxes out on Ling, Baneling, Muta, and just crashes into everything. The Banelings don't care what they hit. There's too many of them anyways. And Reynor will tie up the series, gets past the Beckett block. And now we get that Game 7 we all wanted.
Yeah, Maru gonna feel it's one of those things where the 2 racks look so silly. Why would you 2 racks on Beckett? You know, this is your map anyway. And then obviously it's the other way around. If it works, it's like, oh, what a genius play. 2 racks on the map, you wouldn't expect it. Like, if it works, it's like, yeah, that's brilliant. But when it doesn't work, everyone's like, oh, that's a bit silly. Like I said, I kind of like the idea of the strategy, and I think he's been playing like a really good kind of strategic kind of series. I think he was definitely getting into Reynor's head a little bit in games 3 and 4. And that was kind of continuing through, but yeah, no, in this case, just really was just well played by Reynor. Just good build choice initially, and I mean, this, I really thought, like, you probably, I think even Maru was convinced he was probably going to just cancel it anyway, but yeah, and then this counterattack. This is what basically sealed the deal for this game. Those Lings getting in, and this attack just not really, I mean, this attack did okay, just not for losing 10 SCVs at the same time.
Yeah, not having the start that he had either. Like, that was supposed to do a lot of damage. And in fact, I think some of the damage it did was even unnecessary. Like, there could have been even more micro on those queens. Or, that's totally not even an important point, though. The point is, like, Reynor's going to win that game. Since he deflected the 2 racks, and I don't think was really going to be that surprised by either a Hellion drop or a Hellbat push. It is kind of a very Terran and Korean Terran way of trying to end the game. So well played by Reynor to get rid of Beckett, and now we find ourselves on Romanticide, which gives us a lot of very hype games, a lot of epic TVZs on this map. Is that something that Maru is going to be looking for, though? He's been trying to change it up so much, end it in the early game. I don't know if he wants to play this map.
Romanticide is the kind of map where Maru's like, well, I can kind of get to my late game, though. And he does like a bit of late game.
He can.
So maybe that's what he looks at here. We are yet to see a lurker in this series, which I find kind of incredible, right? And I get it, the way the games have played out. But for not a single game to have gone down that lurker route or to last that long, maybe that all changes here, and that'd be really cool, because to go into something you've not seen at all yet in Game 7 of a series really would be pretty interesting. So let's see what we're going to get. It is the beautiful scenes of Romanticide in the bottom right, giving us this Game 7 by picking up the win in the last map. From Clash from Italy, let's give it our all if you're cheering on Reynor.
And in the top left is the blue Terran for Team NV. He is Maru. I mean, Maru, he's been playing some late game with a lot of mech. Do I expect him to ever play a game where he 3 CCs into 7-minute 4th CC? That's why I'm a little like, I would see that on Romanticide all the time. Totally. It's a Romanticide thing to do. But has Maru been wanting to play that? Not so sure. So what I am questioning is, like, could we see mech again for the final game? Or is that just like something that he thinks is done and dusted?
It's a really good question. I want to say no, just based on the fact that I feel like he's like, right, there's no way I can possibly trick him again. And it's kind of like what we said earlier. Does mech work if Reynor's like more tuned to it from the get-go? Probably not. Let's be realistic. I mean, even look at the second time he went mech, right? It was a great start, and Reynor put up a really good fight. It got kind of close at points. You know, Maru lost quite a lot of fights.
Sure, yeah.
So I think I want to say I'd be surprised if he played mech, but I could also see the argument for it, right? If he really believes like Bio ain't doing it for him or anything. I don't know. I mean, I really don't think this is a bad map, though, if he just wants to... I mean, obviously it's not, because we see it all the time. Like you say, 4th CC at 7 minutes, and just play to essentially say, you know, you go lurkers, I'm going to go ghost, let's duel it out. I mean, we know Maru's very comfortable very late in the game. But if he plays like that, well, yeah, let's find out, I guess. It's game number 7. So many questions, right? Like, it really could be a bit of anything from anyone. Like, the way that they've been playing this year, they've been mixing up a whole bunch. Be fun to see.
And they also recognize that they both could do a lot of things. We've seen a lot of scouting so far. An SCP scout from the Terran, very cautious, doesn't want to take any unnecessary damage from a pool first. And then for Reynor, he had an Overlord to the left, and then drone scouted all the way to the right, and then even a little bit to the north. Really did not want to be surprised by a 2 racks, but he didn't also want to go for another pool first, because, you know, can't be very economical, but this is almost the second drone.
It was almost a second drone. It was almost that Link surrounding the Reaper and stopping it getting out of there. So pretty intense little micro duel to begin with here as a grenade goes off. Queen is bopped. Maru is just going to back it up for now. But yeah, nice to get a drone early on.
Yes, and keep that Reaper alive. Reynor, I don't think will want to play any of those mid-game all-ins to try and close out this series, but Reaper is going to be charged looking for it. Well, not even mid-game, early game. The second gas did come down from Maru, so no third CC, not
Shock
yet.
horror.
And I mean, well, then I'm also going to be like, well, I don't expect that very fast for CC either. So what is going to be the change-up? And, well, for Reynor, you know, we talked about this before Beckett, saying like, well, does he invest in Overlord speed? That's what's been tripping him up. No, not this game.
No, not this game at all. So now Starport's going to be done for Maru. What do we go into? What is the answer for him? Why are we double gassing it? It's a fusion core once again. Maybe we really are just going to go to mech. Maybe he really believes that's the way. Like I said earlier, I would love to see a mech game here where Maru isn't just getting like the strategic advantage early, where Reynor's like, right, I see what this is. I'm getting a Rotron early. I'm not messing around with like melee upgrades or Lingbane. I'd really like to see how a game like that plays out, but the Scout ain't going to be there.
No.
You're going to see a Tech Lab-less Starport, and you're going to see Marine production. I mean, yeah, it doesn't scream battlecruisers at all.
There's so many other things it could be. It could have been, you know, well, I mean, a Viking or a Liberator, but also it could be a Medevac and Marines and a Hellbat push, something that you have to strongly consider. But no, it's actually going to be that battlecruiser build once again. I'm sure it's more on the front of Reynor's mind than any best of series in the last 6 months to a year, because he's like, okay, well, you've done battlecruisers, you've done mech, but yeah, the actual, just from the get-go, from minute 4, okay, I know exactly what you're going to do. It's again, not here, and that's what's really been troublesome for Reynor. Also, where is the battlecruiser going to go? Is it going to be the Blackburn defense, which ended up being surprisingly good? Or the 2000 defense, which was not that great?
Yeah, man, Reynor is playing it safe, right? Baneling Nest before anything else. He wants to just not die. And unfortunately, I mean, you know, he will not die, but obviously it's one of those situations where in this scenario, you don't really need the Baneling Nest, right? A couple Banes against the Hellions could maybe be helpful.
Sure. Yeah, sometimes it is. Like, you park them somewhere off to the side, and the Hellions are like, oh, okay, well, you got us. We're trying to kill drones. But it is mech. You know, the gases came down, the factories are on the way, and Reynor still doesn't have that scout. He doesn't even necessarily see, like, a whole lot more Hellions. Almost got in there, but not quite. And as such, Reynor is not going to have his feet under him immediately. Here comes the battlecruiser. It is going to go for the forward attack. The Queens are a little bit more together, but no Spore Crawler to support. The Banelings help out a little bit. Lings are here as well. It seems like perhaps, yeah, the Hellions will actually be cleaned up. And by the looks of things, the battlecruiser will be pushed away as well.
I'm kind of surprised, though, because there's only 2 Queens, right? Another 1 or 2 shows up. If he hadn't backed it off so much, he might have just had 1 more Queen kill already. This is now really bad because that battlecruiser's going down, Zombie Grub. 8 workers killed, but to lose the BC when you're going to build multiple as well, that is so costly, and that ain't worth 8 drones, not along with all the Hellions that you lost there too. That's a really good defense for Reynor.
I was going to say, before the battlecruiser died, I kind of felt like it was in between. You know, 2000 and Blackbird, I was like, yeah, okay, all right.
I liked it. Like, when the BC was backing off, I was like, maybe he could have killed an extra Queen. What was crazy was that he committed, like, hard back into the Queens after backing up, and that was, like, a bit of indecision. And, you know, that BC just teleported in. It can't teleport out.
Yeah.
And, yeah, look at this from Reynor. This is what I kind of wanted to see all along. Rotron on the way. He didn't start any melee upgrades or anything, right? So, Spire's coming up. The only thing about Romanticide is it's going to be very difficult to do anything like Corrupt or Roach focused in total. So actually just killing this mech army early is going to be tough, but then a lot of the time you talk about a mech army late, and that's maybe not as good. We're actually all going to go melee still, so he's actually quite happy with this style that he went for in the previous mech game.
Well, I think if he doesn't lose a bunch of drones right here, right now, drones are being pulled away, Lings and Queens on top of the Hellions. Yeah, not going to be too many. I feel like now that Reynor is kind of happy with how this went, he does have a solid economy and then improves on it. Like, I think he actually could try and go for a couple of devastating pushes. That's where Romanticide's defensive qualities really start to get highlighted, something we didn't really have to do with mech, because this map pool isn't mech a lot of the time. But yeah, it's going to help maybe cover that lack of battlecruiser as he does invest into further. But Reynor, whether he goes for an attack or actually plays out to the later stages, is going to be in a more comfortable position. Maru is going to have a little bit more of a tough time controlling the game like he's done in the past, but it's certainly not impossible.
Yeah, absolutely. Going to see this BC going to drop its Yamato on a Queen and try to get a couple of drones, which it will be able to do. Able to pick up a bit of damage here then, at least, as we head on out of there. And we just wait for all of these upgrades to come on through on both sides, really, right? Mech upgrades. melee, missiles, flyer attack upgrades. I mean, this is really a situation where Reynor can drone the heck up. He's going to be on 96 drones here soon. We're in a position where Maru's like, right, I feel like I can probably get to a 4th base. We're going to go for some later game mech.
Yes, indeed. It's like one of the few times we've seen it on our mana side, but here we go. Here it is. 4th CC is going to finish up very soon. Additional production. Reynor getting, as you said, all of the upgrades. Also the Corruptors for dealing with the battlecruisers, as we are going to maybe have some multitasking at least a little bit. I mean, actually, most of the battlecruisers this game. Battlecruisers and Hellion run-bys, but no Cyclones have been added on. So, like, really not a lot of pressure for Reynor to deal with.
Yeah, no, it's actually, that is a big change-up, right? Just very tank-focused, very, I'm going to lock down my bases, I'm not going to die.
Yes.
And so just say, right, let's, let this go late into the game. But obviously, yeah, then you don't have the pressure to put on the map. You maybe have one big push, but up until that point, Reynor's very free to do what he wants, minus having to shut down a couple Hellion run-bys here and there.
Exactly. So if he can get up to those Vipers and then start to control the push from like probably the halfway point, that's reserves are like, yeah, I can do this. It's when they're kind of still scrambling and trying to get into position and the mech push happens a little too fast that the late game composition doesn't look nearly as good, basically. But Reynor is going to get to late game. His Hive is on the way. Spine Crawlers this time as well to help against the harassment, which was missing in 2000's game because he just didn't have a huge economy to start off with.
It's just a much more comfortable position. That's basically what we're seeing. It's comfortable, you can afford the luxuries of spines, and that just makes the rest of the game more luxurious as well, right? Safety or a better start leads to a better mid, leads to a better late game. Who would have thought it? Maru just says, yeah, late game, right? CC's on the way, extra factories. Now gonna go Macfield, so does want to sprinkle in some Cyclones, which I don't mind because you do want a few, right? You do want to have a squad probably trying to slow down some of the bases of Reynor. They are basically going to be your harassment force, some way of dealing damage, of denying bases, so I don't mind it. But yeah, initially this really was all about those tanks, so just a very different way of setting up initially.
Trouble there for some mech is that it's just like, it feels like once it's already past a certain point, it's really hard to get any surprises.
Yep.
As the creep just starts getting out of control. He's done a decent job cleaning it up with just plain old Hellions, but that is what's a little concerning. Maru also not quite seeing this army until the center tower saw it. Is forced to bring a lot of army back home. Those tanks are actually in some decent positions, kind of protected by the supply depots, but Maru does need more units over here. There it is. There's the tanks. They'll defend this and actually even chase some of these units down. A lot of Ravagers left over. Maybe the Hellions would actually chase this. And they indeed do. Even the Battlecruisers is coming along. Where are the Corruptors?
The down bottom side. So actually, Reynor had a good prediction of like, oh, BC's on the bottom side of the map. They're about to hit my base. But Maru did pull them all the way back. So actually, that base was safe. But the Corruptors weren't at the top side. But Maru never really got the BCs into that fight anyway.
Yeah, it was just a decent chase for some vulnerable Ravagers, but didn't really even find a whole lot to take down afterwards. So Maru is on 4 bases with 2 command centers finishing up, 2-2 finishing as well on those upgrades. Reynor, he has his Hive. He is not adding on any Vipers so far, but instead more stack defense, more upgrades, and more engagements on the top right as Maru once again heads down to the bottom left, is forced to come back up. And that's actually even a longer haul this time around, so he's going to commit a little bit more to the actual base kill. But maybe now this means Reynor can get this base. The same few tanks that were left last time are still here, but that's not going to be enough against Ling, Baneling, Roach, Ravager, as it does again force the liftoff of the third. Might get a couple of these supply depots, might get a couple more units. It is going to be stopped eventually, but that is kind of like a base for a base.
Yeah, I mean, base for a base, but the base of, I guess this CC goes down, but the third gets to retake. You still have the left side as well, so I don't know if I don't really hate it for Maru. I actually feel like that was okay. He did get a lot of units, and maybe Reynor even chased too far forward at the end. If he could have done that and saved another 5-6 Ravagers, a clump of Banelings, maybe he would have just had the same amount of damage done, whilst, retaining a little bit more, so. But yeah, no, I mean, credit to Maru, because that defense went deep. While it was the same set of tanks, that set of tanks actually went so far back. They were still firing when, Reynor finally decided to turn it around. Just could not break through fully. Well, we reset down a little bit. Lings run up here, and they actually get us around, and just not enough Hellions to clean up those Lings quickly. So good trade. Gas for minerals, take that trade any day of the week.
That's true. Reynor's trying to take the top right. He's also been pushing top right. But Maru is going to maybe be happy taking the bottom left. Eventually, he can maybe take these bases too, where the Hellions are. And that is another attack. Reynor's a bit one-minded on his direction here, but it is going to find tanks on siege. Maru a little out of position, but like actually there's even more tanks here. More army here as well, responding a lot quicker, but Reynor's still going to go for it actually. Is going to move through a lot of tank fire, a lot of Hellions. He's gotten rid of those, however, and only a couple of tanks left over. Maybe actually finding a crack in the defenses is going to take down a lot more tanks. Really deny the third base this time. 15 SCVs went down, and Reynor is even going to fill up with a lot more Lings and a lot more Corruptors because he does see that there's 4 battle cruisers about to hit his base.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. 18 SCVs is expensive. Reynor actually needs to get some lava on the map. He was kind of lava stuff, and that's why he's not built more already. Yamatoing for the base. I mean, he's got 1 Yamato left. He starts to teleport out of here. He will get that hatchery, Maru, as that one last BC goes down. He is desperate to stop some of this mining of Reynor. The problem is Reynor's setting up the right side at the same time, so he has other bases to work with.
I mean, Reynor is using a very expensive composition, but as far as resources trade go, it's really not that bad. And he is mining a little bit more, and he's also got the potential to hit a left side eventually. Maru is not going to be sieging tanks there, thinking, okay, it's all about the right side, all about the right side. There's a little more flexibility in the way that Reynor can go beep, bop, and forth. Beep, bop? Yeah. It's kind of, I guess, watching Reynor continue to headbutt with Ling, Baneling, Ravager, just really not going into that high technology. Again, only 1 Viper. No, like, all Ultras obviously not going to bother trying to make Broodlords work here. Just the lair-based composition and hoping to find Maru under defended. But this time it's almost all the tanks that are sieged. Quite a depth of them as well. And that's definitely not going to work.
I mean, Reynor is just being a little bit too one-dimensional here.
Yeah.
And Maru obviously just says there's no attacks on the left side. And it kind of makes sense because Reynor's defending the right side as well. So he doesn't really want to send his units to the left side because he's afraid he'll take damage on the right side. But that means it's very obvious where the attack's going to come from, so Maru has everything in position. Now these BCs go on a mission, and the Hellions are going to fight a full mineral line, trying to split those drones like crazy. I mean, 8, 9 workers. Hellions, they're like that. Slowing down the economy of Reynor. One thing that, you know, Maru has had all this time is just that left side, right? No attacks there, so that base is just constantly mining.
At this point, Maru is winning economically. And he can maybe even take the bottom left corner. Or as maybe things focus on Maru's push now, maybe Maru could even take that north base. He takes down 1 more hatchery. This feels like it never really has been mining in the first place, and is going to be totally fine with that and just back away, possibly like wondering, okay, where's the army? And actually it was responding. It's just very late to the party.
Yeah, I mean, you're down 1 base here as Maru, but you're kind of winning out by 5,000 resources lost. Don't think that's too bad. This is really bad. Maru, why were you here? I mean, now the Viper abducts go off. None of these tanks will even begin to siege because they know they're just in trouble. Somehow I feel like less dice here than I thought it would, but obviously the attack's not done yet. Now a couple of tanks do get the chance to siege. I thought that was going to be way worse.
Yeah, you see all the tanks on siege, and it's just like, that doesn't look so hot. But yeah, Maru actually had enough time to get back. He actually still has a ton of Cyclone Hellions. That's actually where a lot of his supply was. And I think I feel like he just thought Reynor was somewhere up to the top right and was hoping, he was like, wait a second, maybe I can get another base. Not quite the case. By the way.
They're going to start doing some damage. You know this trade's happening, but the BCs have real just freedom up there. Corruptor's showing up now, but that's 4 drones, been a loss of mining time. BCs, you have teleports? You do. We're even going to go for the cheeky Yamatos. Before we teleport out, just getting any bit of value possible, adding to that resource lost advantage.
Yeah, and Maru did eventually get that base once again with the help of the Cyclone, so lots of base denying, none of them truly comfortable on like 3 or 4 mining bases as the first 3 bases start to get mined out here. 17 minutes in of Game 7 of the Grand Finals, and it still feels like it's pretty even. Both of them have a bank, maybe even, you know, less convincing of a bank for a Zerg player as I look at it, but let's see if the fights can start going better now that more spellcasters are involved. An abduct here on a battle cruiser doesn't result in anything as the Corruptors were a little busy elsewhere, but Reynor is actually going to push into the mech army and again find too much to continue going forward, so is forced to back away, and we'll have to, I guess, accept the command center as a sacrifice, and that's not bad.
Feels like a bit of deja vu, right? We've seen this before. You back away and you're like, oh cool, this CC as I leave. At the same time, Maru is just like, no, you don't get it, Reynor. You're not allowed to expand here. I've told you once, I've told you twice. Please learn. This isn't going to be your base for a while. Denies that once again. I feel like Maru is just very comfortable. I would like to see Maru take the bottom left corner. I mean, I think that's a CC floating there now. And only because Reynor just still hasn't done a lot of attacking down there. Looks like he's trying to run Lings down there now, and that's going to be an interesting fight as Cyclones here are going to get the top right-hand base. Cyclones somehow get into a little bit of a choke point. A couple Hellbats to back them up, but yeah, again, well, okay, somehow a lot of those Cyclones survive. Yeah, and this is going to protect the bottom left at the same time. No cancel there. That's a full-on kill, and, you know, minerals are important for Reynor in a game like this, so that's a little bit expensive.
I mean, not only have this base is down in the bottom left not been able to mine, but it's also been very little creep spread, so no advance notice, and then also it just kind of screams that Maru has control. So yes, he does eventually expand to that corner base. It's going to give him a planetary to fall back to should he need it. Reynor is setting up for an attack. He's got quite a concave. I don't see any of the Vipers, however, and the Corruptors are only now coming in. They are going to force the teleport, though. Battlecruiser's not going to be involved. Maru is going to be pushed back into the original command center, meaning that his bottom left base might be forfeit. Reynor, though, apparently not done, is going to continue forward. There are planetaries every which way we look that should stop the momentum, but Reynor even going to dedicate a lot of Banelings on top of it, gets the command center, gets 18 SCVs, and does grab a couple of last few tanks there. It was at a pretty big sacrifice of his own army. A lot of Ravagers died, and he doesn't actually have as comfortable of a bank as Zerg players would want in this situation.
Do worry a little bit that Maru is now still just building Cyclones. He has got 7 tanks on the map, but they need to be in the right position. Otherwise, this becomes a problem very quickly. Corruptors are trying to make a move, and these BCs are going to say, well, we've got to be a little careful here. Teleport's on cooldown. He's got SCVs pulling to repair, but one goes down already. Now only 7 Corruptors left in the game. That doesn't mean that Maru's got more space for other units. Now we're going to be able to get rid of this bottom left-hand base. It still is low-tech units from Reynor, but all of a sudden it feels like Maru doesn't have the ground control anymore, and hence he can't deny that bottom left base, which he's denied multiple times. Viper's showing up for some kills with these abducts, and Maru is really trailing in supplies, EG.
Yeah, maybe that was enough, especially as Reynor still has enough pocket change to actually remax at least once. He's not going to be able to do it again, but maybe he has found the win here. He's up 70 supply. He's going to be forced away. The Battlecruisers come in. The Corruptors are out of position. But Reynor, with all of this aggression, has not just denied Maru's very important bottom left base, but also has finally been comfortable on his top right base's mining.
Yeah, being able to pick up the base in the top right with no further issues, being able to pick up the bottom center. And now Reynor has control of the economy like he's never really felt in this game. Maru was so good at relentlessly denying base after base, making sure it was a struggle for Reynor to have economy. That's no longer a thing, and neither is Maru's, you know, beautiful defense at home. It's scrappy. It's not really much of anything. 3 tanks left in this game. It's basically Cyclones kiting for their lives.
Which they're going to eventually just run out of position to do. Eventually you do back into a corner, and there's not much more that Cyclones can do there. Or if they try to leave and the Vipers abduct, they're ready for it. Reynor's ready to win the game. He's got a 30 army supply lead. The Spellcasters come in hot with a Blinding Cloud. Banelings rolling in, threatening the Cyclones' lives. That Orbital not going to be at all any help. Is going to at least lift. But that means that the Hellions take some damage. The command center on the left is going to go down to Ravs. Not actually a mass repair. Does end up saving it, giving Maru another chance as he also finally gets back to harassing the top right base. Plenty of drones are going to go down, but is that going to be enough? Maru is broke.
He has absolutely nothing right now. Yes, these BCs finally found the damage, but he's scanning the central base he denied so many times, and while scanning that, he'll be like, no, no, no. You've got too much money, you've got too many units, and this looks like it's going to be a big, big problem. The Vipers and the Corruptors show up. BCs are going down, Zombie Corrupt, and I just don't think Maru has anything left in the tank. You can see it on his face. He's kind of accepting defeat as there is a mass of Zerglings running through his base. And I feel like we might have ourselves a season finals champion.
I think we do. Reynor should be feeling very confident. He sees so few units. Lings are actually doing some pretty damn good damage. Maru's trying to kind of sneak bases to the bottom left, but now his production might actually be camped. If he can't defend this natural trope, he's not going to be able to do it. Reynor is going to get the 4-3 victory in these grand finals, and he is pumped about it.
GG, man. What a fantastic final game. It was going nobody's way for such a long time for a while, maybe leaning towards Maru as well. He had some great moments in there. I really felt like there was that one big fight that was just that little bit too much damage taken.